Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
Good evening and welcome to the Gilbert Town Council meeting for Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. I will call this meeting to order and ask President Jeff Tenney from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to offer the invocation. Good evening, Jeff. Thanks for being here. You'll just need to push a button on the microphone. It has, I think it has a little mic on it or a speaker on.
Oh.
There we go.
Is that
Perfect.
working? Okay. Hello, everybody, and Mayor and council members, thank you so much for your service. And just also noting tonight that in the audience is some public safety personnel, representatives of police and fire. Thank you for your service, and all the other town employees too. Just before I offer the prayer, I want to say that Gilbert's a great place to live. We do have some problems, some serious things that need addressing, but thank you for your service to all of you for helping Gilbert to be just a great place. So I'll offer a prayer now. Our Heavenly Father, we're very grateful tonight to have this opportunity to meet with the well-being of all of Gilbert in mind. We ask Thee, Father, to please bless this good town council, our mayor, all those who will be responsible for making important decisions. Bless them to think clearly and to hear the voices of those who will speak tonight. We ask Thee also to bless all of us throughout the town, that we can be unified, that we can remember to lift up our neighbor, to look out for our neighbor, to strive to be one. We pray tonight that we can have the spirit of unity here in this meeting and that we can get important things accomplished. And we ask for these blessings in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, President Tenney. We appreciate you attending this evening and offering that invocation and thoughts for our community. Very much appreciated. And sorry we were running a little late. We appreciate your time. Moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance offered by Councilmember Torgerson. If I could ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Bridget Peterson.
Present.
Vice Mayor Scott Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Chuck Bongiovanni.
Present.
Councilmember Bobby Buckley.
Here.
Councilmember Jan Kaprowski.
Here.
Councilmember Kathy Tilkey.
Here.
And Councilmember Jim Torgerson.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you so much, Chevelle. Moving on to presentations and proclamations. We have one proclamation this evening that Councilmember Tilkey will be presenting, and she will be presenting that to Kevin Chen. If you could come down to the front of the room. Kevin Chen is not only a member of the Gilbert Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, he is also on the Governor's Youth Advisory Committee for the state of Arizona. And on the upcoming Student Government Day on February 13th, Kevin will be playing the Mayor of Gilbert for the day.
Welcome, Kevin. Thank you so much. I serve as I say Kevin, not Ken, so I apologize. I must be nervous. I serve on the MAG, which is the Maricopa Association of Governments Domestic Violence Committee. And one of the key components of that is to talk about teen date violence. And they have a website which also has workshops where students can log on and be part of conversations to talk about how they can protect themselves. So I'm going to read the proclamations to you. Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. Whereas everyone has the right to a safe and healthy relationship and to be free from abuse, and whereas in the United States, approximately 20% of teens report being the victim of physical dating violence annually, with 65% reporting psychological abuse, and whereas high school students who witness, experience, or perpetrate physical violence in a dating relationship are more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol, are at a greater risk of suicide, and are much more likely to carry patterns of abuse into future relationships. And whereas only 9% of teen victims report seeking help. And whereas educating young people on the red flags and root causes of violence while changing those attitudes that support violence and developing expectations for healthy relationships all work towards the prevention of teen dating violence. And whereas Gilbert proudly serves on the Maricopa Association of Governments Domestic Violence Committee, as this is a regional public health issue that crosses municipal boundaries. And now, therefore, I, Kathy Tilkey, on behalf of Bridget Peterson, Mayor of the Town of Gilbert, do hereby proclaim February 2024 Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And we encourage our community members to support all efforts that end teen dating violence, which includes the creation and access of better resources for young people in need, the implementation of effective intervention and prevention policies in schools, and by educating our young people on healthy relationships. So Ken, I want to present this to you. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes. So I want to thank you, Council and Mayor, on behalf of the Governor's Youth Commission. It is a great honor to be here representing the entirety of our commission. It is through all of our collaboration that we are able to provide help and resources to those who are in need. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll get a quick picture. They put us in the middle here. Is that good? Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate all your support.
Thank you, Councilmember Tilkey and Kevin Chen. I look forward to seeing you on the 13th for Student Government Day. Should be a fun, fun day. Now, we will move on to communications from citizens, and I will ask Vice Mayor to take over.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for everybody's reference, in light of what we were discussing earlier, we have 13 cards tonight, just so you know. Okay. The Gilbert Town Council values citizen comments and input. Anyone wishing to speak before the council must fill out a request to speak card for each item they wish to speak on and submit it to the town clerk or place it in the bin provided prior to the start of the meeting. The communications from citizens portion on the agenda provides citizens an opportunity to identify for the town council matters of interest or concern related to town government. Under the provisions of the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the town council is prohibited from responding to issues that have not been properly noticed. Therefore, the town council may only listen to citizens who wish to address them, and at the conclusion of the open call to the public, response is limited to individual members of the council responding to criticism made by those who have addressed the public body, asking staff to review a matter, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. The town asks that when your name is called, you come forward to the podium, state your name and place of residence, and then begin to speak. I want to take a moment just to address the conduct within our public communications in our council meetings. We value the participation of our community members in the robust exchange of ideas. However, it's essential that this discourse remains respectful and constructive, reflecting the professionalism expected in such forums. Misinformation and personal attacks undermine our collective efforts and do not contribute to the productive dialogue necessary for our town's progress. While we understand and appreciate the passion our community members bring to these sessions, we must remind everyone that clapping during the meeting is not acceptable. This practice can disrupt the flow of discussion, potentially intimidate others who will give up their First Amendment right because they have been intimidated, and detract from the respectful atmosphere we strive to maintain. As we move forward, let's commit to a standard of communication that upholds the values of respect, truth, and civility. This approach will enable us to work more effectively together in addressing the challenges and opportunities facing Gilbert. Thank you so much for being here and participating tonight.
Vice Mayor,
Yes.
before we continue with the slips, Councilmember Bongiovanni would like to make a statement on behalf of the council.
Thank you, Mayor. That was not a beer.
It's not a beer. Oh, Mountain Dew, close.
It's about due. Okay. At our last council meeting, some speakers participated in our public comment portion of the meeting and shared their opinions regarding the Office of Digital Government and allegations of the town engaging in censorship and infringing upon our employees' First Amendment rights. In 2021, when these allegations were first made, the town took them seriously and immediately hired an independent firm to conduct a thorough review of their concerns. If you would like to review the findings of that report, please scan the QR code currently on the screen. You will find in that review it found zero merit in the various claims, and in fact found the opposite of these claims to be true. That the town of Gilbert was extremely intentional in respecting the rights of individual employees to exercise their First Amendment rights. This report also completely and conclusively exonerated the town and the Office of Digital Government. In other words, the town was fully cleared of all allegations. We've been clear that the town will not tolerate divisive, offensive, or culturally insensitive posts from employees claiming to represent the town at any time. We recognize that our community relies on us to share information and engagement opportunities in which to ensure that our communications reflect this at all times. These accusations were raised and disproven in 2021. I am not sure why they resurface now, but I can tell you this. As a local government, we have the responsibility and commitment to fair and transparent communication with our citizens. Just as importantly, the town recognizes and respects the First Amendment rights of all of our employees. Some of these issues were addressed years ago, and I'm not aware of any current concerns. It is an unneeded and unnecessary distraction from what the people of Gilbert have elected us to do. We are pressing issues in this community that need to be and deserve our sincere attention and focus. We are grappling with daunting infrastructure challenges, with stewarding our water resources, with continued supply chain disruptions to where we are struggling to get the police and fire apparatus where they're needed, with construction and cost escalation and inflation also. And just as significantly, with supporting our community and our police department in addressing teen violence in the East Valley. These topics are where our focus needs to be and to where I am directing my energies. I ask you to join me in continuing to move our community forward with these important issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bongiovanni. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. First up to speak tonight, I have a card from Connor Jarnigan. Connor, if you'll come forward, you'll have 3 minutes. Following Connor, next up will be Bridget Vega.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me here today. My name is Connor Jarnigan, and I'm a 17-year-old local high school junior. I'm here today in support of Senate Bill 1183, sponsored by Senator Kavanaugh. This legislation will ban the use of brass knuckles in the state of Arizona. On December 30th, 2022, I was waiting with a friend at the parking lot of In-N-Out by Santam Mall around dinner time, when a group of about 10 to 12 teenagers approached me and demanded money. When I told them no, one tried to enter my car, and when I tried to stop him and turned back to grab my keys, he hit me in the back of the head with brass knuckles. When I turned around to defend myself, I immediately felt blood gushing down the back of my head and soaking into my shirt. It's a feeling I'll never forget, and I hope I'll never have to relive. I gave him a $20 bill and got into my car and drove to a nearby parking lot while blood was drenching my cleats, and I called the police. I ended up having to get staples in my head, and doctors told me that had the injury been an inch to the left, I could have been paralyzed or killed. When I was filing a police report, I was disturbed to find out from Gilbert Police that this was the fifth incident with brass knuckles that month at In-N-Out alone. Although not all victims were willing to file reports. Fortunately, the police were able to make an arrest in my case, and the state was able to prosecute my attacker. During the juvenile court process, I met another victim who was injured by brass knuckles and knocked unconscious. Also, over the summertime, I met another teen injured by brass knuckles in North Phoenix, also at an In-N-Out. He lost 8 of his teeth and will have dental issues for the rest of his life. Each of these unprovoked random incidents involving teens resulted in severe injuries and medical bills. Recently, we've seen dozens of more cases with brass knuckles occurring over the past year. With this legislation banning brass knuckles, it would make it more difficult for these weapons to get in the hands of the thugs who use them, and they would also face additional penalties. According to my research, 21 other states, including our neighbors, Nevada, Colorado, and California, have banned brass knuckles. Arizona is only one of 12 states with no restrictions on them. With heavy punishments on brass knuckles, like in Colorado, where someone found in possession of brass knuckles can face up to 18 months in jail and severe fines, fewer people would risk being caught with them, and we'd be able to stop the sale of these weapons online and at smoke shops. There's no useful purpose for brass knuckles. They're not used in self-defense, and they add nothing to our communities in Arizona besides contributing to violent crime and providing disturbed teens and adults with a weapon that can kill someone. That's why I'm here tonight, to ask you to support Senate Bill 1183, and I'll do whatever I can to represent the victims who have been injured with this dangerous weapon. I encourage those listening to go online to nobrassknuckles.org and sign the petition in support. Thank you, Councilmember Bongiovanni, for your support in getting the website up and running. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Connor. Following Bridget, I have 2 cards clipped together. Crystal Coulombe and Donald Edwards. Does that mean that one of you was going to speak? Or? Yeah. Okay. Which one? Me, Don Edwards. Don? Okay. Yes, Don, you're up next.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. First and foremost, thank you, Connor, for your courageous voice, and sorry for everything you've endured. Thank you to the community and to the media for continually applying the pressure and demanding accountability and transparency. To the Town Council and to the Chief of Police, it should never be profit over people. Mayor Peterson, the silence is deafening. If we can get the mayor, town council, and/or the teen violence subcommittee to add to the next meeting agenda their plan or update on teen violence as far as extending this conversation to the town councils, law enforcement, and school districts. As I attended Mesa Town Council last night to discuss teen violence with Jeremiah Avelis' mother, Olga, as her son was murdered due to senseless acts of violence. Jeremiah, along with senior classmate Stephen Jacobo, was murdered in a different case, but both from Red Mountain. A couple of us mothers had the opportunity to talk to sub-council members Mark Freeman and Jolie Salisbury, who showed interest in joining the East Valley teen violence meetings as well as possibly a coalition if created. But they did state that it would have to be initiated by our mayor or council members. So if on behalf of us as the community, you can extend that invite, that way they can attend the meeting. They've also offered to invite Mesa School District as well to sit in on these conversations as well as host a meeting. Remember the oath that you guys all took. It's never too late to do what's right. To the youth, those who've reported prior but were silenced, again, you are courageous. I'm sorry for everything you endured, but I pray for healing, strength, and protection as God continues to bring these stories to light. Please know we're here for you. You're enough. Your voice matters. We see you, we hear you, and we stand by you. We love you. Be an upstander and continue to use your voices. Also, keep the Lord family, the Jenkins, the Stevens, the Aveas, the Jacobo family, and all of the youth in your prayers, as well as all the other teens who have been assaulted and have ongoing cases. We have no future if we don't protect the children. We have a duty to protect the innocent. If not, that blood is on our hands. If we can, take a moment of silence for all the teens who've been assaulted mentally, physically, and sexually, and for all the innocent souls of the children who were wrongfully murdered due to the senseless acts of violence. Continue to keep the youth and their families in your prayers. Justice for the youth and justice for Preston, Lord. Thank you. If we can take a moment of silence. Thank you.
Dawn is representing two speakers. Are you okay with 6 minutes, council?
I don't need 6, I don't think.
You okay with 3?
No, a little extra. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and esteemed council members. My name's Don Edwards. I recently retired from your fire department after 30 years in the fire service. I was hired full-time by Gilbert in 1999 after finishing first in the testing process. No big deal. Thanks to the town, I got my bachelor's degree in public safety administration. I retired last month after being retaliated against for filing a complaint against my supervisor. I had spent the previous 30 years serving the citizens of the Valley, the last 26 in Gilbert. I was promoted to captain 18 years ago. Mission, men, me. Those were my priorities as a leader. Work first. That's the statement I used to use to let my crew know what they could expect of me and what I expected of them. Keeping my crew members safe and ready was the highest priority I had at work. Taken together, these statements are a declaration that while at work, everything we do should be in service to our mission, our reason for being. For the first 28 years of my career, that mission was serving Mr. and Mrs. Smith, as our former fire chief and town manager, Colin DeWitt, used to say. Then in 2020, my new supervisor informed me, quote, training is the mission of the Gilbert Fire Department. He told me this after I questioned why he gave me such a poor evaluation, the first of my career. After I told him that I had to disagree and that I thought that customer service was the mission, the ensuing 2 years were full of lies at my expense that were spread by my supervisor, a constant questioning of my ethics and professionalism, and being subject to differential and harsher discipline. It got so bad, I filed a complaint. I followed town policy. After I got a confirmation of receipt email, I never heard from our HR partner again. I was never contacted. I was never asked a question. I was never asked what corroboration I had for my claims. Any employee, especially a supervisor that has gone through the yearly harassment training, will know this is not how claims are supposed to be handled. I later found out that same HR partner recommended using an outside agency to conduct the investigation. Fire management said no. She then completed a 20-page report, a report that was produced without ever talking to me, the victim. When I asked for a copy, I was provided with an 11-page summary. I wonder how bad those 9 pages made management look. That HR partner went on to leave the town, as many others have, in part due to the unethical and unprecedented interference by management into the recent promotional processes. I wonder why the fire department has such a high turnover. The mayor and town manager should explain to the citizens, and more importantly to the men and women who depend on him, why the current fire chief was hired. He was objectively the least qualified, the least experienced, and when asked, the last choice of labor. If you read the last few employee engagement surveys, especially during the time frame my problems occurred, you'll find a common and troubling sentiment. There is no accountability for management. Accountability stops at the captain's level in the fire department. Over my 30-year career, I've been a member of 4 different fire departments. The members of the Gilbert Fire Department are some of the best firefighters I've had the good fortune to work alongside in my 30-plus year career. They deserve competent, qualified, and trusted leaders, not the slate of managers currently in place. Now that I'm retired and no longer in the chain of command, I could speak freely and frankly, much to the disappointment of the cowardly commandant of the fire department who tried to have me sign an NDA when I was filling out my retirement paperwork. I will be continuing to come to the town council meetings to continue to shed light on your fire department. And you will begin to see that PD, yes, digital, and the manager's office are not the only problem departments in this town. The current fire management are living, breathing examples of the Peter principle. That degree finally paid off. Thank you for your time. See you in 2 weeks.
This is just a reminder about the clapping. Please. Next up is Maureen Hoppy.
Mayor Bridget and council members, you have an agenda item to discuss my ethics complaint filed against Councilmember Torgerson. You're literally being asked to review an investigation which was conducted without a single piece of evidence being provided. Your decision tonight will determine my next course of action. The only appropriate action to take tonight is to table this item until you can review the information I have found. You would only need 4 votes since it is an agenda item and not an ethics complaint vote. Excuse me. I approve of significant violations of the agreement to serve as special counsel by investigator Sarah Barnes. Ms. Barnes failed to review all pertinent documents as she failed to take all action needed to conduct a full, fair, and impartial investigation as required by her assignment as special counsel. I attempted to withdraw my complaint after I was told that I could not provide additional evidence related to my case. My withdrawal notification was denied by Councilmember Torgerson and the town, so I continued to work with the town to obtain evidence requested by Ms. Barnes. I know Ms. Barnes did not review any evidence because 1, I'm the only one with the security key to access the FOIA results. And number 2, after more than 3 months, I just received hundreds of records this very afternoon that shows dozens of instances where Councilmember Torgerson shared information with Cecilia Chan at the Gilbert Sun News. I was coordinating with Ms. Barnes to deliver evidence to her office when she abruptly concluded the investigation without providing any notice or reason. As advised by the town clerk, I was also in the process of filing an amendment to my complaint due to discovering emails sent by Torgerson to Scott Rundy and other individuals that contain my personal information. Mr. Torgerson, in the interest of transparency, will you send me all the emails between you and Mr. Rundy? Scott Rundy was at the last meeting and is the person responsible for organizing everything regarding Gilbert Digital. Just like Ms. DiBernardo, who spoke at the last meeting, stated, she'd been harassed by many of the same people and did not feel safe speaking in person. Let me be clear about something. My complaint is not solely about the illegal sharing of personal information. It's about this information being leaked to specific people for the purpose of perpetuating and encouraging harassment. I have found that Torgerson has also shared information about Dana Birchman, Young Kaprowski, and of course, good old Mayor Bridget, to some of the same very people. Mayor Bridget, I've spoken to you one time, but I can see that you've been screwed by Torgerson for years. Sorry I didn't come to speak sooner. I wrote a letter to council about Torgerson's emails to Scott Rundy and other issues prior to the last meeting. I also informed you of a possible protest and my concerns about speaking in person. While this letter was not provided to you last meeting, I've taken steps to ensure that everyone has seen it for this meeting. I also have information that the town attorney removed the independence and impartiality of the investigation by providing certain legal information that was inappropriately misleading and represented his personal legal opinion. Additionally, he exercised poor judgment and that he had sufficient information to question the assignment of Ms. Barnes. I've reviewed emails and invoices related to all the investigations conducted by Ms. Barnes, and I've found several concerning issues. The town council has the ethical and fiduciary responsibility to review the details and proper conduct of these investigations. There is so much more, but I'm tired of wrestling with a pig. I've only got 3 minutes to speak. You have some big problems to address. Do the right thing.
Next up is Steve LaVale. Steve, are you speaking for Stacy also? Following Steve is Stacy LaVelle.
Oh, wait, I need this up. Mayor and Council, all the information and documents that I have here tonight and that I talked about 2 weeks ago, they were obtained by a FOIA request through Just Watch. Maybe we can get a logo up to put those up too, so the public can take a shot and get all the documents I have. The last time I spoke here, if you recall the mayor saying, quote, as stated, personal matters fall under the purview of the town manager. So I will ask that the town manager to look into those situations and report back to us. If you would choose to have, if you would choose to have that as a council, we can put this down on the dais like you asked. That's nothing but letting the fox watch the hen house. The town Gilbert personnel rules 1.3.2 and 1.3.4 clearly state the town manager shall be appointed by the council and shall serve at the will and the pleasure of the council in accordance with the code of Gilbert. So is the code of Gilbert to hire based on gender and ethnicity? I still have 28 people, and I still have the list, whether you put that up there or not. And by the way, the ironic thing, that Bob Badgett sent that email to Joe Bush about replacing 28 people by Nathan Williams, HR director back there. And the fourth question in the first round of interviews that year was that the fire department's success relies heavily on the values of trust and integrity. The irony of the question you're asking your new recruits when your organization doesn't have trust and integrity. Let's move on. Let's get back to digital media since they're doing such a good job. All right, here's one. This one was under the tweet by the governor not wearing a mask at the RNC. So one of your employees, of course, quoted, of course he's not going to wear a mask. He knows that they're a joke, right? So we went on about, I got more masks, and then I got digital media saying, another mask comment. Rules for me, but not for thee. They're spying on people just because they're posting about masks. Let's go on. Let's get further. Let's talk about vaccination status. I literally have emails titled vaccination status, vaccination misinformation, mask misinformation. Misinformation was used tonight. Who decides what the heck is misinformation? Who decides this? Who has the right to silence any of these people? I don't have to agree with them. Matter of fact, that guy I worked with for, well, 20 of his 30 years, and we don't politically agree a lot. That's true. But I respect the hell out of him, and we can have conversation. And you know what? Just because he tells me something doesn't mean it ain't true. Doesn't mean it's not his opinion, I should say. Doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's his opinion, okay? Perception's reality, but truth is truth, okay? That's bottom line. Here's some stuff. Here's your team. On January 6th, like it or not, the truth of that's coming out, and I'll make it quick. They're going back and forth talking about, did we have employees there on January 6th for the quote-unquote insurrection, which I don't think was an insurrection, but that's another opinion. Literally going through that. Now, let me ask you, when Roe versus Wade was overturned and the state capitol was overrun by insurrectionists breaking windows at the state capitol, did the digital media team send anything out about that? Did they talk at all? Was there any internal communication about, did we have any employees down there? Because they sure was about January 6th. And that's because it was conservative and liberal. And don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. You want the truth? It's right here. I have it. I'll sit down with anybody. I'll bring the facts. I'm not talking about what I believe in. I'm talking about what I've read. And I don't get to finish, unfortunately, because I'll respect your time. But I will leave you with this. One last thing. I talked about standing in the gap, okay? So you can stand in the gap with me, and we can start to fight for this country and speak truth. We don't have to agree. We just speak truth, okay? Or you can hate me. But it's Galatians 4:16. Am I your enemy? Because I tell you the truth.
Thank you, Steve. Stacy Lavelle. On deck is Becky Wyatt.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Lavelle. I domicile in Gilbert. I have to say, first of all, I'm super disappointed in the fact that it took 2 weeks for you to come up here and say, here's a report, it's all good. No, it's not good. I'm going to talk tonight about a former firefighter, and these are his words. I'm a resident of Gilbert as well as a retired firefighter from the town of Gilbert. I'm writing with a concerning experience I encountered while I was a firefighter with the town. This took place in 2020, the first morning of interviews for firefighter recruit candidates. I was one of several firefighters who was on the interview panels, and we were all asked to meet in Fire Administration Room 2 because Human Resources would like to speak with us prior to interviews. When the HR representative came in, he stood and looked around the room. He then proceeded to tell us, you all need to hire candidates that do not look like you. To be honest, it almost felt like it was an order. I was stunned by this, as I had previously sat on 2 to 3 interview panels throughout my 20-plus years, and I believe that Gilbert Fire and Rescue has always done an excellent job at recruiting and keeping diversity in mind. I happen to be a minority that was hired by Gilbert Fire and Rescue, and I believe HR could learn from the Gilbert Fire and Rescue on diversity recruitment without being divisive. Knowing what was said by HR as a tax-paying citizen, I want my tax dollars to go towards hiring the most qualified employees of our town, and not based on politics. Again, shame on you all, for sweeping us under the rug. You know better.
Thank you. Becky Wyatt. On deck is Corey Cleaver.
My name is Becky Wyatt. I've lived in Gilbert 18 years and am a stay-at-home mom and a small business owner raising 2 middle schoolers. I watched the public comments from the last town council meeting on the very convenient YouTube channel that the digital team created and was shocked to see a manufactured drama unfolding against the town's digital team. I'm missing dinner tonight with my young family to counterbalance the attacks on our digital team, a team I believe is an absolute asset to our town. I'm wearing a t-shirt the digital team designed and sold to benefit charity. I gave these as gifts at holiday favorite things parties, and they were a huge hit among my friends who love living in Gilbert as much as I do. I watched the public comments from the last meeting and thought to myself, this is a very odd blend of being concerned with teen bullying and violence, political spying, swirled in with coming for the jobs of 11 town employees, a cutting-edge team led by a Gilbert native, a woman raising upstander teens that creates content for all the departments of government, including the police department. Who is crafting the fear cocktail that the Gilbert Goons and the digital team should be tied together in any way? I think it is so wild that people with political aspirations are rallying their supporters to literally take down town employees and neighbors that don't politically align with them. This attitude of cancel culture is so uncalled for. My friends rely on the Town of Gilbert digital team to be connected to this community. We share their posts about where to see Christmas lights, free concerts, Veterans Day parades. We share the missing persons alerts, the recycling programs, the council meeting dates, the voting locations. The list of the helpful things they share online is immense. If the loud minority of people who spoke at the last meeting got their way, what would happen? Would all departments go back to running their own Facebook pages and being followed by 20 people? We'd save $1 million by firing 12 neighbors, which on our $2 billion budget is equivalent to less than a penny on a $100 bill. The digital team is worth that and much more. Go ahead and voice specific factual complaints, but calling for the career destruction of the good people of the Gilbert digital team over conspiracy theories and old investigations that were resolved in 2021 is just a waste of our town's time and energy. It also erodes the neighborly glue holding this community together. I tell my kids and my Girl Scouts that you need to think before speaking, and there's a widely shared acronym to see if something passes the think test. T, is it true? H, is it helpful? I, is it inspiring? N, is it necessary? K, is it kind? So much of what was said about the digital team last meeting was none of these things. If the very young town of Gilbert, going through a big growth spurt, wants to blossom into a quality community that respects others, even with different beliefs, then we need to prioritize generosity and grace over political maneuvers. Stop this cancel culture and start supporting our spectacular digital team. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Corey Cleaver. Corey will be followed by Lisa and Risa. That two of you together? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Corey Clever. I am an Army veteran, federal law enforcement officer, and I serve on the board of directors of a national nonprofit benefiting veterans. On December 9th, I took my family to the Gilbert Regional Park on a play date. My 3-year-old went down the concrete slide. She hit her head and was thrown about 5 feet past the slide. When she hit the ground, she started making loud guttural noises, and she was crying for me. In fear of my daughter's safety, I went down the slide to get to her. I could not believe the speed of the slide and was unable to slow myself before hitting the dirt and breaking my ankle in 3 places. I spent 4.5 days in the hospital having 2 plates and multiple pins placed in my leg. I've been out of work for nearly 9 weeks, unable to gain medical clearance. Shortly after the injury, I contacted the Gilbert Parks Department to report the injury. I asked if any other injuries had been reported on that concrete slide. I was told that information could not be shared with me, so I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request. Approximately 30 days later, that request was fulfilled. The Gilbert Parks Department was made aware of 7 total injuries on that concrete slide. 4 adults, 3 children. 3 broken legs, a broken back, a broken shoulder, cracked tailbone, and a concussion, and one of these kids is having problems with seizures. All in approximately 3 years since that park has been open. This isn't a matter of my bad luck. It is a matter of potential negligence. The Town of Gilbert Parks Department is aware of the injuries and has not acted. It is now public record that you, the Town Council, have been made aware tonight, and you, Madam Mayor, you are now aware of these injuries. This injury was preventable, as are future injuries. I am formally requesting that the slide be removed as soon as possible. Failure to do so will result in more injuries and will be due to your neglect. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Risa?
Good evening. We wanted to speak about inaction. Your inaction is truly disheartening. The community is united and vigilant, yearning for acknowledgement of the senseless violence that has been occurring. We implore you to demonstrate that you see and hear us, yet week after week our pleas go unanswered. What catalyst is needed to initiate action? Considering you're not pursuing re-election, why not conclude on a positive note by performing a good deed? Perhaps illuminating the water tower in orange. Anything. We crave action, and we recognize it can start with small gestures. As we forge ahead, taking significant strides, we simply ask you to take one small step and acknowledge. Acknowledge Preston, Stephen, Jameer, Haley, Jeremiah, and all of the victims that have been forever impacted by these senseless acts of violence. This group of individuals has acted time and time again. Now it's your turn. One last mention, our fearless partner Lily Waterfield couldn't be in attendance today, so she's not here to point out flaws, but plans on attending in the coming weeks to demand further action.
Hi, my name is Risa. I want to thank Chuck, Scott, and I want to thank Jim for showing up at our walks and our fundraisers. It means a lot to us and the Lord family. My speech is going to be short. Truth will ultimately prevail where there is pains to bring it to light. This speaks for everyone in this room. I'm going to repeat this again. Truth will ultimately prevail where there is pains to bring it to light. Right now, we are the light for Preston Lord. We walk together as a community. A lot of communities walk together. We do a lot of fundraisers. I have personally hung about 150 ribbons in the town of Queen Creek, Chandler, and Gilbert. I'm asking every one of you here in front of me tonight that I'm looking at to do something, maybe orange, Queen Creek, City Hall. Last night, my daughter drove by. Everything's lit up in orange. I don't know why we can't do that here. I'm asking. I'm praying about it. We need to be a voice for the Lord's. This is not going to go away. We need justice. I know that they're working on it. We see the arrests. But what I'm asking, and all of us are asking, is that we all together show our support for this family. It's not hard. Orange. Orange is the color. I wear orange to church. My sneakers, these are my girls. I borrow them, my blazer, my bracelets, everything orange. Because everywhere I go, people are asking, what is the orange about? Actions speak louder than words. We know that you were at a ribbon cutting ceremony. Right next door, there was a fundraiser. At Brass Tap, right there. Just show some support. That's all we're asking, something. It would mean a lot to us. That's all I'm asking. I know you can't answer now, but just think about it. Please.
Thank you. Next up, Dan Reynolds. Dan will be followed by Rebecca Mejia.
Mayor, Council, thanks for the opportunity today. Some of you probably can look at me and know I'm a little familiar to you. I've been living in Gilbert for about 35 years.
Sir, can you speak a little louder? I really want to hear you, but I can't do that.
Okay. I said I'm a resident for 35 years. I was also a former employee here for 25 years. Contrary to what they posted from that news article from the ODG about disgruntled employees, I'm not a disgruntled employee. So I want to make sure that's clear. I loved working here. I don't love what's going on right now. You could say that I'm a little bit of a disgruntled citizen, because I am. So I want to share a few things. A couple of text messages that went on through some of the people in our digital department. And it feels kind of choppy, but there's a message. This came from, I believe, Jen Schneider, because she was the liaison from fire to the ODG. Hello, Josh Reynolds is replying to people that he's not going to wear a face mask on PD's post. So PD had a post that said, and a lady said, I'd like everybody to wear a mask. I think it's important to wear a mask, and I think everybody should wear a mask. Josh responded to it saying, I don't want to wear a mask. I'm not going to wear a mask, and you're not going to like it. Next text message from ODG. He's allowed to have his own opinions, but this is dangerous because it would make people think that our fire department is not safe and that our firefighters aren't caring about the safety of others. Josh Reynolds' post says nothing about being a firefighter or the fire department. Where did she get that information? What assumptions are made here? And why are they spying on him? They targeted him for a long time. Here's the next text. Hang on. Here's the next text. This is from ODG to current Fire Chief Rob Duggan. Wait, those two are the same. That is the only video I had. He responds, he had a second one where he said he would follow rules while at work. Sally might have it. I think I know who Sally is, but I'm not going to come to an assumption. But that puts another person that's watching Josh on social media. That's disturbing. I know, and I thought I recorded it, but I can't find it. Because since it was on Instagram, now it's gone. I tried to grab it this morning when I realized I didn't have it, but it was already gone. Okay, why are they watching him on social media? I would like you to ask that question. I have one last thing, I'll wrap it up, if I am allowed. Josh was invited by a neighboring fire department to be on the podcast as a guest. He accepted, they did the podcast. They presented it to that fire chief who looked at it and said, this looks good, it was entertaining, sitting around solving world problems, talking about little stuff. And they also asked him why he left here. And so he told them about that too. When they presented it to that fire chief, he said, this looks fine. But then he got a phone call from our current fire chief, Rob Duggan, who asked them to not play that podcast. So my question is, did Rob Duggan do that on behalf of the town? Or did he do that on his own behalf? Why are they trying to silence him? 2 weeks ago at our last council meeting, Josh was sitting right back there, and the police officers had to serve him with another injunction of harassment. I have no idea why they're so afraid of Josh. He doesn't even work here anymore. So those are questions I know you can't answer, but I think that they need to be asked. And I think you need to let your conscience be your guide, and please look into this. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Rebecca Mejia. Rebecca will be followed by Ann Doucette.
Hi. My husband and I bought our first house here in Gilbert right behind Joe's Barbecue. We moved over to from Mesa in the year 2000. We brought our first baby to that house. We moved out to Power Ranch in 2003, and we brought two more babies home there. My babies are Gilbert babies. Our family grew as Gilbert grew and grew and grew. They are Gilbert-bred young adults out there making Gilbert proud, giving Gilbert a good name, unlike some of the Gilbert teens that seem to be making the news today. I don't want those people to be forgotten. I remember when Gilbert first got a digital platform back in 2012. My kids were still participating in Gilbert Parks and Rec services. We were on the swim team, we took dance classes, we did the basketball and rock climbing at Freestone. I appreciated the information I could now get online, and I really appreciated when the system was upgraded so I could sign my kiddos up online. I remember the accolades and positive attention the town of Gilbert got with the Justin Timberlake Can't Stop This Feeling challenge. That video showed us as a fun, diverse, inclusive town. And that is what we are. We have various political parties, various age and tax brackets, various religion. And that's the part of Gilbert that my kids are proud of when they say they are from here. I remember when Gilbert Water Tower Park was opened and all the positivity surrounding that. I look for all that special lighting on the tower and go to the page to see what we're supporting now. This makes Gilbert feel like home to me. I've seen the town of Gilbert floats and parades, and I love the coverage of Gilbert Days. I often check out the Gilbert Your Town Instagram page, and I love the relevant content set to peppy music. Wasn't it just 3 years ago that our digital team was named Social Media Team of the Year? I remember how the digital team gave us updates during COVID and kept us abreast of what we needed to do. As a resident and a business owner, I appreciate the digital team for all their videos and information about our ever-changing recycling rules and how to drop off things at the Hazardous Waste Center. I appreciate the team's work to engage the community. The regular community depends on this type of communication. The digital team is what we need in this day and age. With all the negative press we are getting now, we definitely need some positive light shown on all the good things happening here. I can't imagine in 2024 not having a digital team. I hear people asking for more and more transparency. But why get rid of one of the lines of communication? I can't imagine the Gilbert Facebook pages really being the only things prospective homebuyers could see. Let's be honest, those don't always show us in our best light. I was here last meeting and heard the concerns of others. It seems an investigation has been done. If it needs to be reopened, so be it. But those calling for the entire department to be shut down are really being short-sighted. I, as a longtime Gilbert resident, am speaking for those of us that are actually part of the digital age, and we certainly need a digital presence. It is 2024. This is how people engage, and I want to say thank you to the digital team and the town council for putting an end to the slander against them.
Thank you. Ann? Ann Doucette?
Hi, my name is Ann Doucette. I've been in Gilbert for 26 years. For weeks now, I've stood before city councils discussing the pillars of leadership, transparency, and communication. Today, I want to dive deeper into community and empathy because I fear that we may have lost the sight of what that truly means. In my 2 decades of leading recovery groups here in the East Valley, I've seen firsthand the power of empathy in connecting with grief and loss. The longest distance in the body is between the heart and the mind. The heart is always playing catch-up, taking months to comprehend what the mind already knows. Last night at Mesa's shortest city council meeting that I attended, 23 minutes and 1 second, a mother of a victim of one of the teen violent cases spoke. She expressed her concerns and talked about her stellar son, Jeremiah. After the meeting, I got to listen more to her heart. It has been said that when we have asked school system to help, they say that that's a parenting issue. They deflect and they stay silent. Let me tell you what is not a parenting issue. Jeremiah's mom shared how she asked for her son's name to be read at graduation. She was told that they could not read his name because he was not physically present. I found out this morning that this also happened to another family member of a victim as well, Stephen Jacobo. He was a straight-A student as well, a stellar student. They didn't allow Stephen to graduate because he didn't finish the semester due to his death. Yet they allow Stephen's murderer to graduate, although he was in jail during finals, committed a huge crime, murder. So where is empathy? Has the heart of human life become so gray and calloused that these teens could simply not be honored? They said it was policy. And, well, they said they didn't really have a policy on this. And they would rather follow policy than honoring these young lives that have been taken too soon. Let me tell you something. Grief doesn't discriminate. It finds you, whether you seek it or not. I don't know anyone who has ever sought out grief. People don't understand grief until it's your front row seat at the funeral. And then what? Will our community rally around them, offering support and solace? Let me tell you, I have seen the army of God wrapped around these families. Communities multiply our joys and divide our sorrows. Our community is crying out, and leaders, I ask you, are you listening? You cannot deflect. Action must be taken. We must demand change. We must advocate for the rights of victims and that their voices are heard and their grievances be addressed. It's time to reassess our priorities and ensure that our justice system truly serves all members of society, not just those accused or wrongdoing. Are the leaders hiding behind pride and ego, failing to acknowledge the need for accountability and improvement? I don't know. Leaders may think that if we don't say anything and stay quiet, these folks will just go away and we'll be done with that part of the journey. Staying quiet speaks volumes. This movement will not go away. We are a community that supports the families, and we honor the lives of Haley, Preston, Jameer, Jeremiah, Stephen, Christian, and I am sure there are many more. We will continue to push back and honor these lives that were taken too soon and yet lived so well. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for your comments this evening. Mayor, that concludes the request to speak.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to invite Chief Michael Solberg to the podium to make a statement like we've been having done at each council meeting. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, all our participants tonight. Thank you. I want to do a shout out to Connor. Thank you for being here. I don't know if he's still here. Might be doing homework.
He's at volleyball practice. He's trying to get on the team tonight.
Okay, thank you. But he sent me an email last night, and I just wanted to express appreciation for the effort he's doing to help provide solutions. Last week, we gave an update, and so I wanted to provide, I know how important this is, obviously, to the community. We hear it each week. We hear it every day. And so I wanted to just give an update of what we presented last week and let a little insight of what's coming as well. Based on the information that we provided over the last 30 days to the community and the overwhelming amount of information we've received from both the media and from the community, we've been able to make 22 arrests in January alone based on teen violence cases. And the majority of those cases were cases that were just brought to our attention in December and January. Just last week alone, we made 6 arrests on 4 different cases. The great majority, as I mentioned, were we were able to make those arrests based on information we received from the community. So again, thank you to the community for providing that. We continue to ask for additional information. We updated our webpage with additional information of at least one more person that we're looking for, and we may have some additional updates for additional people that we are looking for. So I want to thank you for the continued support. We will have more arrests, and we will continue to update the community, council on those arrests, and as we proceed on these investigations. Safety remains our #1 priority, obviously, in Gilbert, And we are committed to working with the community and working together to bring successful conclusion to these cases and prevent future cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Vice Mayor. What's your name, sir? Joseph. Because you're a public hearing item and we haven't gotten to that portion of our agenda yet. The folks that spoke are communications from citizens, and you're on a very specific item on our agenda that will allow a two-way conversation with you, not the one-way during communications. Thank you. No problem. Vice Mayor, the consent agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I've been asked to remove item 7 for discussion, item 11, and item 14. There being no other request to pull any other items, I would make a motion to approve items 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 15, 16, and 17.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Tilkey, seconded by Councilmember Tilkey. Please vote. Vote passes 7-0. Moving on to the first item.
Item 7, Councilman Torgerson.
I was hoping to have a quick presentation on, as we're hiring a construction at risk manager, where we are in phase 2, if it's fully funded or if it's something that's being pushed to a future bond item, just so I'm completely informed.
I see someone walking. Is it Robert? Robert Carmona approaching the podium.
Good evening, Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Torgerson. In regards to Desert Sky Park Phase 2, right now, that item is for design of the park, which was funded in the FY24 budget process. But in terms of the construction funding, those are unidentified at the moment. The design funding ahead of time will allow us to really get deeper into the cost estimation and be able to even possibly divide into future phases based on what future funding may be available, along with utility coordination and the community engagement side of understanding deeper what the community would like at Desert Sky Park, because the last touch point we had was more of a conceptual master plan, just with more of the overall rendering of what could be possible at the location.
Right, and I'm going to assume that's the same with item number 11.
Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Torgerson, that's correct. It would be the same with number 11, doing the design process, but also looking for ways as we identify future funding to be able to wisely use that with the cost estimations and the different phases and amenities of the parks.
All right, so we're not making a whole lot of assumptions on it. We're still going back to the drawing board to see where we may end up in this process.
Yes, our goal in the design process is really to work through all of those items and have a very interactive process with not only the community, but Parks Board and Council to decide what the best way to move forward is, not only with construction, but design on the park, and still work with Council on those different funding options as we look at how we could possibly phase, 265 acres of development, wisely with the other capital needs that Gilbert's facing.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions that Robert could answer while he's? Thank you, Robert.
I make a motion to accept items 7 and 11 on the consent agenda.
We got a combo deal on that one. I have a motion to accept 7 and 11. Do I have a second? I'm sorry, Councilmember Kaprowski. Second by Councilmember Kaprowski. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. So that kicks off 7 and 11.
Item 14, Councilmember Torgerson.
I really wanted to confirm what what strings, if any, are attached and reporting back regarding the funding from RAISE and USDOT for that project. And there you are.
Susanna? The mic's not on, Susanna.
There we go, there we go. See, I haven't done this for a while, so I apologize. Mayor and Council Member Torgerson and the rest of the council members. This grant is a grant that basically will be putting a pedestrian way across at Water Tower Way, called the Veterans Memorial Bridge. Those aspects of that grant are that we will have to provide a 20% match based on the total estimated project cost. Actually, design costs at this point in time is all we're looking for with this grant, $2 million, so our match will be $400,000. One of the other ones is we will have to follow all the rules guiding the use of federal money. That includes Davis-Bacon, Title VI requirements, as well as Buy American type items. These are typically handled, and oftentimes we will enter into an IGA with the Arizona Department of Transportation that will help administer that project for us, make sure we dot all those I's appropriately. And then also one federal rule is that we will have to basically go under construction with this bridge within 10 years. So should we get this and should we move forward with it? So those are the basic three that will be a kind of a requirement on this grant.
There's no other than constructing it, there's no other performance requirements. There's no, if we don't perform, there's a problem.
So with every IGA that we go into, there will be some, obviously there will be some of that language that goes into the IGA. Should we get this grant, then we'll definitely bring that IGA in front of you to make sure that that is also taken care of, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to propose accepting item number 14 as presented.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor and I were, we kind of chuckled at the has to be constructed within 10 years, the speed of government, right, and bureaucracy. Sorry, that just kind of caught us off guard. I have a motion by Councilmember Torgerson to accept. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilmember Bongiovanni, please vote. Mine didn't go. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Is that it, Vice Mayor? That was it. Thank you. Moving on now to our public hearing portion of our agenda. We have our public hearing items will be heard at one public hearing, at which time anyone wishing to comment on the public item may do so. I have a few slips for people to speak on one of the items, actually two, excuse me, 22 and 23. Our first item on our public hearing agenda will be items 18 and 19 combined. It's annexation. I'll open the public hearing. Annexation A22-04, GP 22-15, and zoning Z22-15. I'd like to ask the Public Works Department to come up and give us a presentation. We had asked for a history on this project. And I see Kyle Maris from Development Services. Are we still going to do the same process? Turn the mic on, Kyle, please. Thank you. There you go.
Mayor and Council, yes, good evening. We are going to follow the same process. I was just going to give a little introduction to the cases, and then I will turn it over to Jessica, who will give us a history of the project, the Lindsay Road and Lexington project. Sal will then come up and go through the planning process and the planning case with you, and then again I will wrap up at the very end. I do want to say thank you to Ms. Xu and her sister. We've been working tirelessly with them over the last few days, trying to come up with solutions to some of the different challenges with the project. There are a lot of nuances with some of these things, and unless you're kind of really buried into the planning or public works world, some of these look really confusing and don't seem to make a lot of sense. But I believe we're in a good spot. We worked even up until late this afternoon, working out solutions. I think we're in a great place. So with that, I will turn it over to Jessica to start, kind of give us a history of the background. We can walk through this whole thing and you can see where we've all ended up.
Thanks for that, Kyle. Jessica, can you just introduce yourself so the public knows who you are, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you. I'm Jessica Marlowe. I'm the Public Works Director here in Gilbert. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I'm just here today to give you a little bit of a background on the Lindsay Road project and Lexington Road Improvement Project. As you all know, as council, part of our responsibility in the town is planning for the future of the community in public works. That includes providing for a safe and efficient transportation network as well as underground utility infrastructure. As part of our general plan, our transportation master plan, several different traffic studies that were completed in this area, improvements for Lindsay Road and Lexington were identified as being needed in order to provide for that adequate transportation network and underground utility infrastructure. So I'm going to walk you through the Lindsay project and the Lexington project, as well as some of the history of the parcel that's the subject of this annexation general plan and rezoning case before you tonight. There are a lot of complexities, as Kyle mentioned, and so we wanted to just kind of give you that background and then delineate, the past project from the current request. So the project description for the Lindsay Road, which we like to call ST-117, is the completing of Lindsay Road improvements from Pecos, including the intersection, to South 144th Street to major arterial standards, including additional lanes, raised median sidewalks, and streetlights. Improvements on Lexington between Lindsay and 144th are also included in the scope. So the project itself started with design in April of 2017. Construction started in April of 2019, and the project construction was completed in September of 2021. So with respect to the parcel itself, our outreach for land acquisition, which was needed as part of the Lindsay and Lexington project, we approached all the property owners along those alignments where land was going to be needed in order to complete those improvements. With this particular parcel, outreach started in 2018, significant negotiations back and forth over the course of about a year, which culminated in a purchase agreement that was signed in 2019 for right-of-way acquisition, and then the property closed escrow in April of 2019. So the property itself, we went through the appraisal process as we do with all property when we're looking to acquire it for right-of-way. And through the negotiation process, we acquired approximately 22,000 square feet of right-of-way, along with some drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and other improvements for a total of $187,000. Part of that appraisal process was, it did indicate that additional dedication of right-of-way would likely be required when the property was developed in the future. There were some additional improvements that were done with the Lindsay and Lexington project that were added value to the subject parcel in order to prepare it for future commercial development, including some waterline stubs, the actual improvements to the roadway of Lindsay, and the signal intersection at Lindsay and Lexington. So just kind of a little bit of phasing of the history here. You've got the original property on the left, what the new property looked like after the acquisition of right-of-way for Lindsay Road and Lexington. And then on the right, you'll see the approximately 6279-ish square feet, that's still an estimate, that will be required, that we're looking to acquire as part of the current zoning application process. And I will now turn it over to Sal to walk you through that part of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Welcome up, Sal. Could you just introduce yourself, please, for the public?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sal DeSanto, Planner 1. And thank you, Jessica, as well. So now just carrying forward onto the planning application here. The subject site is located at the southeast corner of Lindsay Road and Lexington Street, and the property is approximately 2.7 acres gross. I also like to point out that the property is adjacent to Rivulon located to the west, Maricopa County residential to the east, and then some Town of Gilbert Business Park located to the north and south. And building off some of the previous conversation left by Jessica, the 3 applications we do have in for review with the planning staff is a proposed annexation of the 2.7 acres from Maricopa County Rural RU 43 to Town of Gilbert Single Family 43, as an annexation requires the property to come into the municipality as the most comparable zoning district. The second application is the proposed general plan amendment from general office to general commercial, And finally, the proposed rezone, which would then bring that SF43 property in the town post-annexation to the proposed general commercial. For the annexation exhibit itself, we just wanted to show you all today the roughly 2.7 acres that it is currently in the in Maricopa County as a residential property, and with the the annexation application, it would come into the town as the most comparable district, which would be single-family 43 or SF43. Moving on to the general plan exhibit. Again, an outline here of the property, and just wanted to call out the existing land use designation as general office and the proposed general commercial there. Moving on to the zoning exhibit, we can see here that the proposed zoning is to be general commercial from the what would be SF43 here with the town, and staff believes that a commercial property here does make sense since it is adjacent to quite a bit of employment and business park opportunities, and the commercial piece would provide a new opportunity in the area. The site's relationship too with the general plan, it's important to call out that it is located within the Gilbert in the 202 growth area, which indicates a primary focus on economic growth through office and employment uses. And due to the nature of high employment uses in the area, Lexington Road has been designated as a collector through the circulation and transit system of our general plan. So if we take a quick look there at the graphics, we can see the 202 growth area there in that darker shade of blue, and then in the circulation and transit systems within our general plan, that dashed purple line that is highlighted is in fact Lexington Street. Following the general plan, it's also important to add or bring to light the traffic circulation study that was performed in 2017 for the area, which did indicate that Lexington Street would in fact be a major collector. And with a major collector, the width total is 80 feet, and that is why with a zoning application, the dedicated right-of-way is 40 feet for those half-street improvements. So I just want to provide that circulation study there for a visual of where Lexington is called out as that major collector. Since this also is a conventional zoning application, there is no associated PAD, therefore the development on site at this time would need to follow our general commercial development standards, which I have provided for you all on the screen here. And again, you know, nothing here is deviated from our LDC standards. Moving over to public participation, we did hold an original neighborhood meeting back in March of 2022 when prior to the application being submitted with the town. 4 surrounding community members did attend, and it was, you know, the input was revolving around general curiosity on development in the area, and of course questions centralized potential noise, odor, and lighting. So with that, we provide to you all tonight the Planning Commission's recommendation to the Town Council of approval of GP 22-15, Z 22-15, and A 22-04, of course subject to all stipulations. Leading to updated conditions and stipulations, I'll pass it back off to Kyle to dig in a little bit further. Thank you.
Thank you, Sal.
Mayor and Council, I mentioned that there's been a great deal of work that's gone on with the applicant to work through some of the solutions and talk about that 40-foot dedication that was in the original stipulations that came from the Planning Commission. As we look through the application, there is a 30-foot strip of land that is still shown as an easement located to the north of this, which is still on Ms. Shu's property. That 30 feet the dedication of that 30 feet would fulfill that requirement of the 40-foot requirement of dedication when a property is rezoned. And since we've purchased property just to the south of that for Lexington, when Lindsay and Lexington was constructed, that entire requirement would be taken care of with that strip of easement just to the north. So we've changed the stipulation in your packet We've removed the 40-foot right-of-way dedication and added the language here that the applicant shall be responsible for dedication to Gilbert for the 30-foot of Lexington Street. Right-of-way on the subject site is depicted in, and that's a Maricopa County record where it's shown as the easement. And then in discussions with Mrs. Hsu, we've also asked and come to agreement that any additional right-of-way required for the new alignment of Lexington, and you can remember the diagram that we saw that was a little bit of an odd shape that was about 6,200 square feet, shall be purchased by the town in accordance with the zoning exhibit. Again, that exhibit shows that area. So again, it's a little bit of an interesting timing how the CIP project worked along with the development application. We feel like we're being consistent with everything that we've done and how we've treated every other development project in the town. And I'm happy to say that I believe we've come to a solution. Mrs. Hsu and her sister are here, and I know they intend to speak, but we feel like we've made a lot of headway since our last discussions with council. So unless there's any questions, I'll stop and turn it over.
Thanks, Kyle. Councilmember Kaprowski.
Hi, Kyle. I just wanted to, I guess, get a little clarification regarding the history of the center line of Lexington. And I think that was something that came up in some of the recent discovery.
Mayor, Councilmember Kaprowski, that is absolutely true. When Rivulon Boulevard went in on the west side of Lindsay Road, it had a wider right-of-way, and so as that was constructed out and the intersection of Rivulon and Lexington and Lindsay were constructed, the center line shifted to the south. So as we measured the 40 feet on the east side for Lexington, we were measuring from that southern line that lined up with Rivulon Boulevard to the west instead of that original center line road, center line of the road, which would have been to the north. So that whole thing shifted it south, pushing that right-of-way further into the property. So that was one of the things we were able to discover. That 30-foot and that original center line gives us that additional 30 feet for the dedication of the right-of-way.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kyle at this time? Seeing none, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, team. Appreciate it. Now it is time for the applicant to speak. So Gina, looking forward to hearing from you tonight. We're going to get there. We're going to make sure your mic's on, so because we want to hear every word you have to say.
There's positive things. No, thank you. I just want to say thank you for working with me and hearing me and hearing everyone. I didn't have a speech lined up because we literally made the deal like minutes before this. So I just feel very relieved and grateful I can move on, and I feel like it was much more fair. So I appreciate it. So thank you, everyone. And I hope you guys have a great night, because I finally am going to be able to sleep. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Where's your sister? And I don't have any other. Okay, thank you. I see it. Thank you. I got a heart, though. Thank you. I appreciate that. I will go ahead and, unless staff has any questions, council has any questions for Gina or for staff, I can bring it back to the dais for discussion. Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the dais for discussion. Who would like to start? Anybody? Nobody? Jumping? Councilmember Tilke?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to take a moment to thank our staff and Gina and her sister for working together and finding a solution. We knew that there was one out there. Sometimes getting around all the legal mumbo jumbo takes a while, so thank you for your patience, but it really was a big lift for everybody, and we appreciate that. And if there's no discussion, I'll make a motion if you'd like.
I'd be happy to take a motion, unless anybody has any. Did you want to make a comment? No. Okay. Okay. Oh, wow. See that?
I want to make sure I do it right. So are you going to?
Correct. Yes. I want to make sure they're going to put that language back up, because
okay.
The motion's going to need to replace what's in the packet, or it's condition A.
Condition A.
Kyle, is that correct, or Sal? It's condition A, correct? Yep.
And hopefully you'll put it here so I can actually read it.
Can it go on our small screens?
Yes, they just need to get back to the slide.
Thank you. not the continuance. That's the updated condition.
Okay. So,
We'll get
okay,
there.
okay. I'm gonna wait till you tell me go.
Is it with the updated conditions?
So, Mayor, Councilmember Tilkey, these two conditions would replace what condition A is in the ordinance. Can you confirm, Sal, is that correct? Both of these, correct? Okay.
So I just want to make sure. I need to make two separate motions, if I understand right. One for the
Wait,
annexation.
excuse me first, one for the annexation, and you're going to need to do one for the general plan and the zoning, so 3 technically.
Right.
Correct?
And so
Correct.
with which one am I going to put the stipulation or both? That's what I need to know.
This would be on the zoning.
Zoning.
On the zoning item.
So,
So,
okay,
so we could do the annexation, get that done, and then move on to the general plan.
All right, we're going to try to get it done right. Thank you. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 18, annexation A2204.
I have a motion by Councilmember Tilkey, seconded by Councilmember Torgerson. Please vote. Annexation motion passes unanimously 7-0. You will become members of the town of Gilbert. Next motion,
Thank you.
Councilmember.
Okay. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 19, general plan GP 22-15 and zoning Z22-15 with the following stipulation: the applicant shall be responsible for dedication to Gilbert for the 30-foot Lexington Street right-of-way on the subject site as depicted in 2000-07-33370 MCR 30 feet. And any additional right-of-way required for the new alignment shall be purchased by the town in accordance with attachment 5B, Exhibit 2, zoning exhibit.
I have a motion by Councilmember Tilkey.
And Councilmember Tilkey, could you just clarify that that new condition replaces existing A?
Can I just
You just
say
that. Yep, that's correct.
that condition replaces Exhibit A?
Condition A.
Condition A.
I have a motion.
You got it?
I have a second by Councilmember Buckley. Please vote. Okay. Motion passes 7-0. General plan and zoning are passed unanimously. Thank you, Gina. I know it wasn't easy to get here. Government and bureaucracy isn't always the easiest to manage or navigate, but we appreciate your patience, and we got to the right point in the end, okay? So thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. That was, I know, a tough one for everyone. Moving on to our next item, open the public hearing items. Do we need to hear a presentation on items 20 and 21, or could I have would anybody like anything on 20 and 21? I don't have any cards, slips to speak. I have no public comment from online. Then I will go ahead and open the public hearing for item 20, property acquisition, and item 21, property acquisition, as stated in the agenda this evening. I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion to accept items 20 and 21.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve items 20 and 21.
I have a motion. Second. I have a second by Councilmember Kaprowski. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Now we will move on to item 22, 23, and 24. I'm just going to open the public hearing on all three because I think we will probably discuss all three together. We will need separate motions when it comes to 22, 23, and 24, but we might as well have the public discussion on all three. Would a member of staff like to make a presentation on? Oh, here comes Eric Brown. Down to the podium. Eric, please just introduce yourself for the public.
Now we broke it. We'll get there. One more. Try again. You know what? Why don't you guys just do it your way, try it your way, and I'll just follow along myself. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Eric Brown. I'm the Assistant Public Works Director. Oh, that looks like mine. Hang on. There we go. Now we got it? No, that's okay. Sorry about that. I'm very needy, and in my technology doesn't always work for me. I'm not going to belabor the points before you tonight on the rates items. This will be the third time the council has seen this information in public meetings. The same information was presented in more detail at 2 Public Works Advisory Board open meetings, at the customer open house, at the HOA roundtable event, and has been available on the website since October. But I will have some new information regarding those events and some of the feedback that we have received from the community. Tonight, we're going to walk through one of the local government's most impactful responsibilities, which is the provision of public health through solid waste and water services. Even though I'm an aficionado of public works, I recognize that water and trash rarely get the headlines that the federal government gets. We don't train the military, we don't secure the border, we don't provide health care, so there's not a lot of attention given to what we do. The public doesn't see much of our infrastructure, so it's easy to keep it out of mind until these conversations come up. So the task before us tonight is kind of a tough one. It's giving these services that are so impactful to our community the attention and the resources that they need. These 4 bullet points are the financial cornerstone for how we plan and pay for utility services. Growth pays for growth and is not subsidized by rates. We maintain a minimum level of financial flexibility, and we protect our credit rating to ensure the lowest borrowing costs when it is needed. We have 4 utility rates that the town provides for our customers, and tonight we're going to focus on water and solid waste and recycling. I'll get into a little bit more detailed reason for these rate increases, but it's really 3 main points on the solid waste and recycling side. The volume of trash and the cost to dispose of it has risen significantly on a per customer basis. Trucks cost nearly double what they were 2 years ago and are now well over $500,000 each. And the cost to keep our aging fleet running has skyrocketed. But our customers demand this service of us, and so we have to continue despite those cost pressures. On the tonnage and fees side, we're receiving 10% higher tonnage than before COVID, which has outpaced our customer growth. And we are charged a 10% higher fee per ton disposed, which has resulted in a nearly 25% cost increase in total disposal costs just in the last 4 years. As our fleet of trucks ages because we cannot purchase new ones due to supply chain disruptions, the cost to repair the older ones has nearly doubled in the last 4 years. This swallows up any available funding that we would have to purchase new vehicles, should we even be able to get in line and order them. And lastly, we've accrued a 30% additional cost of the parts to repair those aging trucks just in the last 4 years. Our expenses far exceed our revenues, and our solid waste and recycling funds are approaching empty, rapidly approaching empty. But our rate proposal helps bring them into balance. For our residential customers, that is an $8.52 per month impact for most of those customers. That will allow us to keep offering these top-notch services to our community. Our commercial program resides in its own fund, separate from the residential program, but it requires an average 22% increase across the board for those services. I'll move on to water, but let's first remember the impact that water service can have on a community. We've recently seen tragedies that can occur when water systems fail.
both instantaneously and as well as in long, slow declines. But we don't have these problems in Gilbert, right? Well, we have experienced in recent memory the success that comes from a well-maintained water system that receives constant reinvestment and care. It serves the community in ways that go well beyond watering a lawn or filling a swimming pool. And yet we still have work to do to keep this community protected and to retain their trust in our ability to effectively serve them, especially as the system ages and wears out. There are three main factors that are driving the need to increase the water revenue: the need for water resource resiliency, skyrocketing construction costs, and new awareness of additional infrastructure needs. We are not alone in these cost pressures. Every city in the valley is facing the similar situation as we are. How they choose to deal with these pressures is their choice, and how we deal with them head on is always our choice in Gilbert. You have seen how the rising cost of the water itself takes up more and more of our operations budget each year, rising more than 66% over the last 4 years. We're also proactively adding more wells into our inventory to counteract the Colorado River shortfalls, just like our neighbors in Mesa and Peoria and Glendale are doing. Our community is very well aware of the dwindling Colorado River, and it expects us to act aggressively to protect their way of life. We are doing so through all of these additional measures that are meant to provide water certainty and to meet their needs as our desert lifestyle evolves. These measures are the execution of our long-held plans for sustainability and reliability. No one could have foreseen the effects of global supply chain disruptions due to pandemic, to war in Ukraine, and the regional industrial boom that have had on the market. But it has nonetheless wrought havoc on our financial ability to carry out our capital improvement plans. Many of the projects that we are now constructing have been planned for many years. It's unfortunate that the market is affecting them in this way. But that impact is not a reflection of previous mismanagement or a lack of leadership. The obvious example is the North Water Treatment Plant project, which is simultaneously critical to Gilbert's water reliability future and is also the major obstacle in maintaining financial equilibrium. Inflation in the construction market is the only reason this project has escalated in cost. We have held the scope of the project constant since its inception almost 6 years ago. As we look into the future and we make plans for the build-out needs of the community, we're also finding existing deficiencies through these planning efforts. Some of them are urgent in need of correction, so we include them in our immediate budget. Some are not so urgent, so we push those fixes off until a later time to reduce the financial impact to the community. Similarly, we course correct our existing plans, both because of changing water use patterns and supply availability, and also to balance those needs against the ability of our town to carry the burden necessary to execute those plans. The results of this balancing act is the rate proposal before you tonight. You've provided us direction to notify our customers of this financial plan, which is equal measures of directly dealing with the financial realities facing us and feathering out the impact and providing planning time for everyone to pivot to this new reality. But you did not take this decision alone. You solicited the advice of the appointed Public Works Advisory Board, which made several recommendations based on their in-depth study of the issues and the options. They grappled with the same issues you did, and ultimately you both came to the same conclusion, that this gradual water rate option is in the best interest of Gilbert, both today and tomorrow. It impacts everyone differently. The higher residential water use tier increases in cost, and is a consideration for efficient desert water use. The non-volumetric water rates for the volumetric water rates for non-residential customers are rising at a lower pace than residential, in recognition that businesses have an incentive already to be efficient. And many professionally managed landscapes are more efficient than residential water landscapes. You asked us to increase our outreach, and we did. You can see that we began in the spring with media and website information. And realistically, this outreach and education actually began 2 years ago when we presented the upcoming rate review schedule that showed that water and solid waste and recycling would be reviewed again in 2024. During the summer, we made special notifications to our largest water users and to groups involved in our planning or advisory capacities. And then once our financial options were solidified, we leveled the outreach up once again to make sure as many people as possible were aware of what is to come. During this process, we listened, and here's what we heard. We heard people want us to make sure that development pays for its own impacts. So we explained the difference between rates and system development fees, and we assured residents that development does pay its own fair share. People ask what we are doing to contain our costs. We shared our competitive contracting requirements, the value engineering process that we do on a significant basis that reduced the North Water Treatment Plant cost by $30 million. The delaying of important capital projects until they can't be put off anymore, and even how we route efficiently our solid waste trucks. We heard a lot of confusion over municipal finance and funding sources and the limitations behind those sources. We explained the separation of utility revenue and the expenses from the general fund, the discussion about transportation bonds not being allowed to utilize for utilities, and then how growth-related system development fee funds are used. We heard a lot of concern over the future water resource availability and that current landscape choices may not align with that reality. Many of our residents understood that the old days of overabundant water are gone. But some of the landscapes are relics of that area, and they really wanted large-scale changes, in particular from their own HOAs. We also heard concern from high water users about paying more than others. And we discussed the conservation-oriented rate structure that is designed to encourage efficiency. We also directed them to our water conservation team and their resources for efficiency. We also heard concern from HOAs that they won't have the budget to meet their water bills. We made improvements to our proactive outreach to these customers, mailing them a letter in the summertime, notifying them. Some customers heard that, and they made changes to their budgets accordingly. Others did not. And lastly, we heard that there is help needed for fixed and low-income households. And we researched this, and we presented a plan to develop a customer assistance program to put in place by the summer, and Council, you approved that tonight. As a recap of our formal process that we have followed, this information has been before you since March. You've taken formal action in November, and tonight we're asking you for the adoption of the rates. Mayor and Council, the projects and the work supported by these rates have been developed by your professional staff. They've been double-checked by your appointed experts on the Public Works Advisory Board and triple-checked by you yourselves. The financial plans went through the same rigor by those three groups, and you have settled on these options for adoption. The staff request for you tonight is to approve the 3 resolutions regarding solid waste and recycling and water rates and fees. That's all I have for you.
That's all, Eric. That was a lot. Thank you, Eric. Does anyone have any questions for Eric at this time? Councilmember Tilkey?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment that Eric and I have communicated, and we've received several emails from residents who are in a position of probably being retired or limited financial resources. And we're collecting all of those emails so that we can be proactive to reach out to them about some of these financial opportunities that we have to help them out. So I just wanted to mention that for the council.
Thank you. Councilmember Torgerson?
A couple questions, because it was brought to me as, for clarification. Budget year, fiscal year 2023 was projected to have a $14 million operating deficit. Is that correct?
Could you clarify, are you talking about water fund? I imagine that's
Yes.
probably the one.
He's phoning a friend.
Yes, I need help with that
Phone
one.
a friend, yes.
I'm afraid I may not be a very good phone a friend. I don't know that off the top of my head. I can look it up and get back with you, though.
If this would help you, just, it's so I can understand something, that's all it is, if you want to take this.
He's got the piece of paper that shows that.
I like that,
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Torgerson. So that's from the budget page, and it does show that there was a planned use of about $13 million more than the revenues for that year. So that would be using revenues in the fund balance from a prior year, usually for one-time projects like capital in that year, which is why there would be more expenditure than revenue planned for that year, yes.
Okay. But it is now projected to be $11 million positive. You can have it again, it's okay. I don't want to stump you.
Mostly it's looking at when is the one-time revenues being used will be the difference in the offsets for that.
Okay, so it's looking at that it's not being used probably this year. That swing of $25 million. I love that.
Sorry, so the paper that you have is the projected for 2023, and we build that based off of how much of the CIP has been spent through March when we pull our projections. And so it's assuming not all of the projects happened by the projection, and then the budget for the remaining part of those projects are included in fiscal 24. So it's a timing of when the CIP is projected to be spent and used versus the next year.
Okay, and the only other question I have, and this is not so much as what we're building here, which is the big part of it, was just the million gallons per day. The productivity, the output per full-time employee, I know there's an answer for this. It's just one of those things you look at and you want an answer for, is it's gone down substantially. There was times where it went up and then it went down, it went up and it went down. Is there a way to quantify that so I can understand that?
Most of that would be a difference in the capital expenditure per year. So probably, which changes can drastically from year to year, especially right now as we're doing a lot of capital with the North Water Treatment Plant. So that might be a metric to look at more on the operating side, not including the capital that has larger.
Right, I was looking at it as an operating issue.
Did I hear you say million gallons per day per employee? Okay, yeah. So when we're talking about our water system, water production is not the only thing we do. We have to deliver it also and maintain the system. And that system is ever expanding to meet the needs of additional customers. And so the maintenance that goes into that is not going to be reflected in production of an employee per million gallons of water.
Understood, thank you. With that, I'm good.
Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Eric, I promise you won't need a calculator to answer my questions. Two quick questions. Does the town make a profit when we charge residents for water or solid waste trash? Or?
No.
No. Do other cities around the valley charge residents more than what what it costs them to provide the services to supplement other needs the city may have?
Yes.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Eric, one of the most common comments I get in emails is, why didn't we forecast all this so we could avoid all these rate increases? Could you list the things we would have to know to be able to forecast what's going on?
He doesn't even know all the things we have to know.
I'll list a few. The commodities market for nickel internationally would probably be one of them because it's a big part of steel. And we're using a lot of steel in our construction right now. That's not very nuanced, right? But that really is what feeds into construction market cost escalation. Some other things that might be a little bit more tangible to people. Colorado River conditions. 7 years ago, the federal government was not making month-by-month changes to our allocation on the river. And they're doing that now. And that's not a very good place for us to be in, for us to have that long-term reliable water supply jerked around like that. And so we've recognized that, and we are building additional backup supplies for the community so that in this unknown future, we're still reliable and they still have that water service. Hydrology on the river is something that we thought was pretty secure for a long time. And that has drastically shifted just in the last decade, and even more in the last 3 or 4 years. That's very critical to what's happened to us. The condition of our North Water Treatment Plant as well was something that until about 7 years ago was not known because of the way it was designed and our inability to get in and inspect it until once every decade dry up of the canal. When we did do that, we then understood the difficulties that facility was facing. And so then we began the plan in 2018 for restoration, reconstruction of that plant. We just didn't know that the construction market would erupt in this way.
Mm-hmm. We probably wouldn't know the location and the severity of forest fires that are affecting the water quality in the basin also.
It's another one, right? Affecting our ability for that plant to even treat the water that is incoming.
Yeah. No, thank you. There's so many things that being able to answer that question about why we can't forecast. Well, a lot of those things we can't forecast. They've happened and we're reacting now the best way we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Your very first answer to that question about nickel, and I look at these photos with all the steel that's just in those 3 photos that you're showing behind you. I mean, it's so appropriate, and we had no idea what these costs were going to look like. And we've been talking about this since 2020, but in 2018, we lowered fees. And had we had a crystal ball to be able to look forward, we probably wouldn't have lowered fees at that time because it's so much harder to have to then come back and go up. And nobody ever remembers when you lower fees. Everybody remembers when you increase your fees. Always will remember who increased the fees and that they were increased. And that's why we took a new tactic in, was it 2020, that we decided we would look at everything every 2 years so that we weren't just putting this out to a date unknown. We would stop and look at everything every 2 years to make sure that we were doing this on a much regular basis so that things wouldn't get out of hand. But again, we had no idea that we would be facing the conditions that we're facing today. And the town of Gilbert is a business like any other business, and our costs have increased while everyone else's costs have increased, and that's been our biggest issue right now. Councilmember Buckley?
Thank you. Well, everybody else has asked most of my questions, so, but on the North Water Treatment Plant, that treatment plant was actually built in 1997, correct? Was that?
It was, I believe, 94?
90-something. Yeah, it was 1994.
Mid-90s, and then it was
Mid-90s,
expanded.
okay, yeah, mid-90s. So that, to me, it seems like that treatment plant's completely at the end of its life. Or,
The vast
right?
majority of
And-
it is currently.
Yeah, and because when I did the tour, and actually I think that was in the newspaper, but we did the tour and we went underground, underneath, and in really great area of where the water would have been, because it's empty now because they're working on it. But and I apologize if she's here, I can't remember her name,
Jean,
but
Jean.
that led the tour, did a fantastic job. But she reached up and she was saying that, the concrete is, and all of the things that they have built it with is so old that they're starting to crack or fall apart. And then she touched something and a piece of it fell out. So, a lot of people, I don't think, realize what the cost is and how monumental that project is, and the cost to have that in. So I just, kind of wanted to bring that up. The other item is the cost of the water, and we were talking the other day, and I've heard Eric's presentation like 5 times. But when we were talking about, I think, the delivery of the water from Salt River, and it used to be much, much cleaner than what it is now, and because of all the wildfires and things that have happened above the water that comes down, and it's costing, I'm assuming, a lot more money to clean that water so that you all have potable water and you turn your faucets on, it's nice and clean, and you can flush your toilets. And so I just kind of wanted to bring that out, because those are some things that we just don't think about. I didn't think about even. And the monumental project that the North Water Treatment Plant is, and that's where your money also is going. It's, we have to have the infrastructure to deliver that water to you. So thank you very much for all your presentations.
The whole
You
team
did
was
great.
doing it. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. If there aren't any more questions at this time, I will bring up the residents that asked to speak. I have 3 slips from residents that would like to address the council. The first one is Joseph Bessler. And then next will be Ed Weaver. You might want to pull that, yes, you're very tall. There we go.
Yeah. Thank you for hearing me, and I'm sorry about speaking out earlier, about not being called. This is the first time I've ever attended a council meeting. And well, I was reading right from your thing, and it said that these public meeting things, public hearings are noticed for 6:30 p.m. So I thought that's what we were doing. But like I said, that's my inexperience. And I appreciate you hearing me out tonight. A lot of what I had to say has already been talked about and refuted by the good gentlemen from our Public Works Department. But from a personal level, these kinds of increases are just beyond ridiculous. I mean, me personally, I'm a single person in a single resident home. I have drip water systems. And when this rate increase came out, I was starting to think I was probably going to have to go take a shower at the gym just to try to keep my rates in line. Since 2021, my rate has gone up by, where's the number on here? 34.9%. That's just since 2021. It's already gone up that much. And now with this increase for this year, it'll go up by about another $20 to $25. I tend to be on the low end of these numbers because, again, I'm one person living in the house, not 3 or 4 or 5 all taking showers and washing dishes and whatever. But this rate increase if you look at what's proposed going out, it's a total of about $50 a month extra over the next couple of years. The projections I saw were 25 this year, 13 next year, and 12 the year after that. If I add all that up, that brings my rate increase from 2021 to 114%. That is just beyond ridiculous. Now, I know there are needs to keep it up, but what has Gilbert done? What Gilbert has done was expand residential building. We're building all over the place, putting even more burden on the existing water system. Why am I being responsible to subsidize that out-of-control growth? And it is out of control. I would actually like to see a moratorium on growth in this town for a couple of years, just to maybe give the utility department a little time to catch up. And again, personally, I'm not speaking for anybody else, just me. Just in the last several years, there have been not one, not two, not three, but 4 massive high-density apartment complexes built within 2 miles of my house. That's a lot of people. Apartment complexes, I couldn't say for sure, but I could estimate probably house 6 to 10 times the number of people per square foot that I represent on my property. It's a lot of burden on a system which apparently is taxed and needing some work. What I am asking is that you quit reaching into my bank account to pull out this money. Now, I know there are rules saying that things that I pay for in my utility rate have to be used for the utility department. I'm not aware of any rule that says that money can't come from somewhere else in the Gilbert budget and be used to subsidize costs for the utility. I could be wrong on that, but I don't believe there is anything like that. In the Gilbert budget, I looked at it. I'm sorry. When this town has averaged somewhere between $500 and $700 million a year in revenues and expenses, and we come up with a $2.1 billion budget, I mean, it wasn't even worth my time to look at. To me, that just seemed like a real pipe dream. So I'm pretty disgusted about it. In fact, in my notes, I had a nice little speech because I thought I was just going to have the 3 minutes, but I'm kind of just picking out of this. But this thing is just to the point of being so far beyond ridiculous. I could only call it ludicrous as far as we're concerned. I just think it has to stop. I don't mind a reasonable increase. The good gentleman cited that other towns are increasing their rates on a proportional level. Yet I personally heard a news report, I think it was ABC probably, about how Tolleson was asking for a 9% increase. Well, when inflation's 3.5-ish, and the federal government was benevolent enough to give me 3.2% this past year on my Social Security, I'm already starting this year off 0.3% behind the gun, okay? These are my numbers. Other people have theirs. It's gonna be a point. At the rate these things are increasing, with no end in sight, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is now, and if this would fix it and we could get back to something reasonable, okay. 50, what did I say, it was 55.3% this coming year? Or over the next 3 years, whatever it was. That's not really what I call reasonable when inflation is only several percent. We don't get increases. Now, I know you were talking about having programs for people on fixed income and everything. I'm probably going to have to pursue that. I have a good budget. I just retired this past year, and I'm already thinking, geez, at this rate, I'd have to go out and get a job probably in the next 5 or 6 years just to pay my utility bill? That is absurd. So I ask that you go back to the drawing board, at least with the budget. Try to find some monies from somewhere else to help subsidize these utility costs if that's allowed in our city charter. And maybe if it's not, maybe we need to change the city charter to allow it. You cannot keep dipping into the residents' bank accounts and pulling out what you need. Let's see. Yeah, just the other things were kind of, like I said, kind of pointed, and I was I had a nice 6.5-minute presentation made, but when I thought I was going to be limited to 3, it got trimmed down to something which was just kind of pointed and nasty. So I've trimmed it down even a little bit more. I'm sure I've gone over 3 minutes, and nobody's timing me, but.
Well, technically, we're supposed to be timing you. Each person's supposed to get 3 minutes. I don't know what happened to our clock.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, the computer froze, so there was a delay. I apologize.
Sorry, thank you.
Well, I'm sure I've talked over my 3 minutes. I do appreciate you hearing me out on this. I'm going to be looking forward to information on any help I can get personally with my fixed income, because again, I have Social Security, but I also have a pension. The pension doesn't change year to year. So when inflation goes up, I lose, like this past year, I've lost 3.7% in buying power from my pension just because that doesn't change. That's a fixed amount the rest of my life. And I guess that's all I had to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up will be Ed Weaver.
Hi, Council. I really hadn't planned to talk. I was just going to voice my disapproval of the proposal that's in front of you right now. But sitting here listening, I do have one question to the Council, and I'm just going to leave it with that. In 2022, you had a study done by an outside firm, the Wilden Financial Services Company, that provided you with some information in November of 2022 that portrayed the financial status of the solid waste or trash pickup. And they recommended an increase to go from $24.73 a month for trash to $32.75. You approved that study. That study showed profitability down the road. 14 months later, you're coming and asking for another $8.52. Why? I ask you why. Did you not believe the study? I too am asking for maybe an outside source to look into your public works, to look at their finances. These rate increases are terrible. I'm on a fixed income, and I will not go asking for public help. I will make cuts elsewhere. But it's pretty sad when senior citizens have to make choices whether they can take a shower daily or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Next, I have John Kalea. And I probably just butchered that last name. Do we have John that wanted to speak on this item on fees? Oh, you're good? Okay, thank you, John. I will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the dais for discussion. Any, Vice Mayor?
I have one question I'd like to ask Patrick.
Sure.
In light of the confusion about whether we could transfer funds from other places, would you explain the concept of enterprise funds and general fund in the town?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor Anderson. So enterprise funds are specifically set up in a segregated separate fund from the general fund, and general fund is generally supported by sales tax generated within the community as well as state shared income that we receive to provide for general government services. Those enterprises or those service lines that are within our enterprise funds are set up as standalone entities, much in the same way that a private business would be, that the revenues generated by that service line pays for the costs, and we have no profit margin built in, as was mentioned during the conversation. Some cities do pull additional revenues out of their enterprise funds. We do not. One of the things that's also important is our credit rating, and those funds have ratings that are separate and aside from the town's general credit rating for our general obligation debt. That credit rating is assessed solely on the sustainability, the viability of the fund itself. So for water, They would analyze our revenues, see that the town is taking steps and making decisions to ensure that the fund is self-supporting, to provide for the operations and the treatment and delivery of that water. And if we were to subsidize that from other sources, that would be subject to annual appropriations that could change, they would probably look to potentially downgrade our credit rating because of the volatility of a council making that decision to make that transfer each year. And if there were a tight budget year or we entered into a recessionary environment and our revenues fell and we didn't have enough funds to make that transfer, it would put that individual fund at risk. And so therefore we would take a hit to our credit rating, which means when we go to the debt markets to issue bonds for primarily capital projects within the fund, we would actually pay more in interest as a result.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other comments, questions, discussion? Councilmember Kaprowski?
I was wondering if Kelly could come up and just explain a little bit about, for example, the North Water Treatment Plant project is expanding capacity, and the expanded capacity is actually paid for by SDF funds, which is paid for by new development. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure, Mayor, Councilmember Kaprowski, I'd be happy to. You explained it beautifully there. With the North Water Treatment Plant, there are different funding sources we use for that. If it's replacement of our existing infrastructure, we use our repair and replacement fund. If it is the expansion for the additional water capacity that's provided, then we use our growth-related fundings, which are system development fees or called impact fees in other places. New residents and businesses, when they build homes or businesses in Gilbert, have to pay a fee, and that is what is used to offset that cost. And that makes it so that our existing residents in their water bills are not paying for that expanded growth. The people that move here are paying for that.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, discussion?
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Sorry,
Councilmember Kaprowski.
Kelly, I do have one more question.
Kelly's
for
getting
you.
her steps in tonight.
We recently also approved increases to the SDF fees that we're charging development, and I believe that percentage was also quite high, in line with the discussion that was made today regarding just the overall increase in the construction cost index and those costs. Can you give a little bit more detail about that, just to give some context that we're not, that we are trying to balance the needs and getting the revenues from the appropriate sources?
Yes, very good. There is a study that's required with the system development fees to make sure we look at all of the growth-related costs and what that infrastructure is, maintaining the same level of service as our existing residents, so it can't be higher. And we're working through that process right now. Council's adopted part of the fees. We'll continue the process and adopt the actual fees. There's a public hearing in March. But that is calculated so that growth pays for growth. And that increase was 80-something% on the system development fee side is what that's looking like for a single family residence. So they are not insubstantial fees. It's looking right now, total growth related fees for a single family home is about $20,000, and we're looking to go up to about $36,000. So those are the types of things that we have to balance in making sure that we protect our existing residents, that that's not built into the water fees that they pay for the water service or trash service, that impact is part of what they pay when they build their homes and come here. And it is a large increase on that side as well.
Thank you for the additional context.
Kelly, before you sit down, I'm not going to make you walk back again. We also, and Eric showed it in his presentation, but we also, the council voted to do an $80 million bond to offset these costs so that the residents are not shouldering these costs all on their own, that it's actually, the town is actually taking out an $80 million bond to cover these costs too.
Yes, Mayor, that'll help with the cash flow of, planned in the 5-year period. So it is built into the plan with this rate study. We're not anticipating issuing those bonds for a couple of years. We'll use the bonds that are currently outstanding, and then they would be repaid with the rate revenue over time, trying to strike that balance between ripping the Band-Aid off and having a higher increase immediately, or having it more slowly over time, that residents can have more time to build that into their planning. It also gives us more time to see what happens in the construction market. Hopefully, costs come down, which gives us more room, and we would need less bond in the future. We'll continue to watch that as the economy unfolds over the next few years.
And again, that's why the council chose to review these rates every couple of years, so that we can try and stay on top of those things. And like I mentioned before, we have lowered the rates in the past when we've had the opportunity to do so. Yes. And Gilbert's also always been one of the lower rates in the valley of all the municipalities in the valley over the years. And this still will keep us pretty low compared to some of the other cities and towns. Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. Now maybe you can sit down. But I'm not promising we won't call you back.
Fair.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or discussions here on the dais? Anybody will kick this off? Or discuss amongst the 7 of us? Nobody wants to talk about this. This is not an easy topic. It's not an easy topic for any of us, and as you can see from the charts that Eric showed also, that we've been discussing this for a very long time and trying to figure out the best route to take, and that's why it also included a vote to do an $80 million bond that we will pay substantial interest on over the years to try and offset the cost to the residents. And I saw oh, thank you, Councilmember Torgerson.
Just to empathize with you on it, I'm not thrilled about it either. I'm going to pay an awful lot. And I've looked at this as many ways as I can, and I cannot find a reasonable fight to pick about it. I can't find a big hole. I have a couple questions. I feared the answers were going to be reasonable, and they were. I've looked. It's not set up to go anywhere but back to you in servicing you and me. And I look at it and I'm trying to figure out, do I want to put turf in my front instead of grass? Things like that. I'm looking, what more desertscape can I do? What less use can I have? And nobody up here is immune to this, and I want you to know that.
I also wanted to mention, I know that we had a request to delay implementation potentially for HOAs, but there is no way for us and the town to be able to calculate that, handle that from a perspective of how do you do that for which water users, and it's really not something that they would be able to do. So, and I don't think legally we would be able to treat one group of people differently than another group of people, so we have to, I'm looking at our town attorney and he's nodding his head, so I don't think we'd be able to treat one group of people differently than another group of people for those. Any other? Nobody really wants to tackle this. Nobody wants to be the one. Councilmember Kaprowski, do you have some comments, or?
Are you ready for a motion? All right, I'll make the motion to approve adoption of the resolutions for items 22, 23, and 24.
Do they need to be 3 separate votes, or is one vote okay? One vote's okay. She made one motion, so I just wanted to make sure. We have a motion by Councilmember Kaprowski.
I'll second.
A second by Councilmember Tilke. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. I really wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how that was going to go. I wasn't sure how that was going to go, quite honestly. I know we've talked about it a lot, and it was a very tough decision to have to make, and it's different when you're sitting in these seats compared to those seats, isn't it? And you have to make these very tough decisions. Councilmember Kaprowski, you have your mic on? Oh, sorry, thought you wanted to add something, okay. Now we will move on to, so that was 22, 23, 24. Moving on to administrative items. We have a few items to discuss. The first one, item 25, is discussion and possible action related to a status update from the Council Subcommittee on Teen Violence. But I'm going to ask this council, you've been sitting in these seats for more than 2 hours now. Does anybody need a break? And I see yeses. Okay, we will take a recess. Thank you, everyone. We will call this meeting back to order, come back from our recess, and thank you for the break. We've been sitting here for over 2 hours, like I said, so, and I know you all have too. We appreciate it. Moving to our administrative items, item number 25, discussion and possible action related to a status update from the Council Subcommittee on Teen Violence. Vice Mayor, yes?
I'll make this quick and give the other two members a chance to report also. I was hoping that our group would have stayed here to hear what we're actually doing, because that's what they thought we weren't doing, I guess, anything. Anyway, we did meet as a subcommittee here in the past week. We had a very good presentation by Melanie Dykstra about all the services that we are providing right currently, things that we don't have to create, but these are things that already exist. She outlined 6 different programs that exist now that address teens, teen violence, domestic violence, all the things that we would pay attention to. And then we had an opportunity to listen again to people at the library, and I'd made a promise at the time that I would contact an SRO in one of the schools and see if I could get a tour of the schools and talk about SROs. And I did that this week and had a very good tour. One of the participants had mentioned that I should surprise them, that I shouldn't go on an organized tour, but surprise them. If I would have surprised the schools I went to, the kids were all eating lunch and they could have cared less what was going on. So, but I got some good information from the SROs. And these are tangible things that we can actually talk about, especially when we get to the budget. The only thing I heard from them was that they felt they needed one more SRO to be kind of a rover, to be able to plug gaps where there are needs. And they were very, they work very closely with the school districts, but the school districts, they hire security personnel that are good people. I know they're good people, but they don't pay them much of anything. And so the turnover is very high. And that could be a very strong, again, this talks about how important it is that we get the schools and the school districts involved, because it can turn the security into a very strong element of what's going on in the schools to supplement what the SROs are doing, who are doing a great job anyway. But that's what I kept hearing from them, was that the schools were the key. We need to work with the schools, whether it's with the teachers, and I know Chuck and Jim will talk about some other things that are going on, but working with the students directly, working with the teachers directly, it all seems to boil down to, let's get the schools involved in this.
And can I clarify who was saying all of that we need to work more closely with the schools?
Well, that's just my own observation.
Oh, okay, thank you, sorry.
Yeah.
Which schools did you visit? Can you say?
Yeah, I went to Mesquite Junior High, where they have an SRO there. I went to Mesquite High School, went to Gilbert High School, went to Highland High School, and I went to their security office where they showed me their security system, which is very sophisticated.
Gilbert Public Schools security
Gilbert
office?
Public Schools. Yeah.
Excellent.
So those are things, especially this whole idea of another officer who can fill the holes. That's something we can talk about as we get into budgeting. And I think that's a tangible thing that we can show is happening. What I'm worried about through this whole process up to now is we're doing a lot of things, but I don't know that it's showing up as something that we promised that we would do in their minds, in their eyes. And I'm worried about that a little bit. Maybe we need to work a little bit more on an actual plan that we can bring back to the council, and the council can look at and say, yes, those are actionable items. We would approve of taking action on those and doing something about it.
Councilmember Kaprowski?
I just wanted to make a comment, Vice Mayor Anderson, that I've been very impressed with Gilbert Public Schools' infrastructure for security that they've installed the past few years. And it was unfortunate that their recent bond didn't pass because about 12% of it, I think, was for some additional security improvements. And so I think that'll be critical, even though they're a separate entity and that's their only source of revenue, we still need to be community partners in those efforts.
That's a great point, and I know that the partner that Gilbert Public Schools worked really hard to install that security before the last school year, so. And it's been installed at a lot of the elementary schools and junior high schools. Gilbert High School's got a completely different entrance now when you walk in there. You just, it's the first time I had been there recently. Councilmember Bongiovanni, did you have something?
I was going to say, I'm really impressed with the relationship that our SROs have with the students. That was very impressive.
Those SROs love their positions.
Yeah.
They do. They're special people, I think, too.
Yeah.
Is that your update?
Yeah, well.
Councilmember
Chuck and,
Bongiovanni?
Jim.
Thank you. Update on the teen violence survey that we were talking about doing. I want to thank staff for bringing to my attention the Arizona Youth Survey along with Chandler High School, or Chandler District. We got the go-ahead to utilize the AYS survey instead of building our own because it would be much quicker. We have a better sample survey, sample size to just take some of the results that we get from the AYS survey, which will fit the questions that we were looking to do. And some of the schools are starting that actually this month. I'm still waiting to hear back finality from Higley District. So that should be moving forward. And we're hoping to get the results before the official public gets the results due to what we want to do with them. The nobrassknuckles.org, I just checked my phone. We're at 1,756 right now. I'd like to see a lot more of that, considering a local petition against a local bar got 4,500. So I'd like to have everyone, if you haven't done it yet, please support us at nobrassknuckles.org. Currently working on putting together some workshops, looking for people who, if you have a topic you'd like to discuss, like to present to other parents, just please email me. I'm trying to get a speaker list, shall we say, put together. So if you know someone also who has something valuable to speak with parents about, please email me. The first one we're looking to talk about social media. And then there is a gentleman who grew up in gangs, and he wants to talk to parents about things like what his parents didn't say to him, what they weren't there for, to help support some of our parents also. We're looking at doing this in elementary schools and middle schools. All that is still being arranged as we get more people interested in bringing topics forward for those. Something I wanted to mention after communication from citizens, I didn't get a chance to jump in there, but you know, the public is invited to our subcommittee meetings, so we're not keeping people from them. But she did bring a good point about other council members in other cities. I will make it a fact tomorrow to personally invite those other city council members if they would like to come. They have to figure out the quorum issue and all that also. We haven't scheduled our next one yet. I don't know if the committee wants to do it. You know, without me, that's fine with me. I am out of town on various trips for the next 14 to the next 21 days. So if you guys want to continue and do the next one, I'm okay with that. Otherwise, I'm hoping that we can work out a time to get the next one together here pretty soon. I really want to get in front of more people to get more ideas about topics and people who want to come talk to us, talk to other parents also.
Can I follow up with something
Sure.
you just said, Councilmember? I just signed your petition. by the way.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I forgot to do that before. The mention of coming to the committee, I think, was more of an East Valley Coalition type situation.
Okay, we've
and
spoken about that. Yeah,
Not
thank
necessarily
you.
just bringing
Yeah.
people, I think if I was understanding correctly.
Yeah,
and I know there's been some
Councilmember
discussion.
Stewart mentioned that to us, so,
And so that would be separate
Okay.
from this subcommittee.
thank you.
Just
Thank you.
because we've been very clear that we can't add people to this
Yeah,
subcommittee.
yeah.
So I just wanted to, thank you.
I misunderstood her, but thank you for clarifying that.
I think that's what they meant.
Yeah.
Councilmember Torgerson.
Can I ask a question first?
Of course you can.
I'm so sorry. Councilmember Bongiovanni, when you, I know, it's so formal. When you talked about schools and then you said districts, I just want to confirm that the survey is going to include charter schools because we have a big contingency with
Yeah, we're working on that one right now. We haven't had too much success yet with the charter schools because some of them, I don't believe they have to take that test, or that survey, that test, I'm sorry. But we still got calls in, and my hope is that we can include them also.
Thank you.
Mayor, we did have some charter schools say that they would be available and work with us on that, which was nice. Councilmember Anderson has taken a great heavy load on it by going to these schools every day, and Chuck has put in an incredible amount of work. But one thing that I thought was humbling, as I sat there and watched some parents that had lost their kids, whether it was Stephen Jacobo's parents or Jameer's parents, I realized everybody's fear in that room was what those two people lived through, and the overreaction that some had, the blame game, all those things. At a certain point, it had to be reined in, but they just really wanted to be heard. And to see Jameer's mother, that there's the pain in her eyes, as I sat up and talked to her, and she hugged me, and just to see that was something that no parent wants. And I think that for everybody that feels that something's not been listened to or something's not being done, they need to take into account that every person up here has a child or two or three, and no one is immune to that feeling. I can be the hardest guy in the world, but I looked at that woman and I wanted to cry because I could see what she was feeling. And whether people think this is an insignificant move on our part or they want to say it's politics or whatever it is, at the end of the day, I believe something good will come out of this. And I do hope that people can be patient, which no one wants to hear, but people can understand that you know, they are kids and parents alike. They're thought of. I don't know what to say. I saw this and I was really just, that struck me so hard to see her eyes. So that's really all I wanted to say.
I also just wanted to mention real quick the power of this community. I mean, Chief mentioned it earlier about the tips he's been getting and the power of that community itself, giving us really good ideas, really good feedback. You know, we're working hard to do whatever we can, what we can do and put in motion. But I've also want to thank the schools for superintendents for meeting with me and including us on their AYS surveys to get the information that we want to get much, much earlier at a much, much smaller cost to the town also.
Councilmember Tilke.
Thanks, Mayor. This is a comment for the committee to consider. Through this all, I know that many people think we haven't reacted fast enough or been vocal or, you know, out there enough, but I do believe that everybody on the council has the desire not only to address what's happening today, but to have a long-term plan to make sure it never happens again. And those things don't happen overnight. wearing orange, and all of that is very important for the moment, but let's not forget long-term that that we honor the lives that were lost by making sure that this doesn't happen again. In some of the conversations and just in some of the results that we've received since all of this began, you know, we're all very saddened by it, but I'm even more sad that it took a death for people to finally feel comfortable to come forward. And to me, when I look at what is that nexus that was missing, we got reports, we responded to reports, but then witnesses would go away and victims would go away and nobody wanted to talk about it. And we've learned time and time again that if you don't have a good case, if you don't have the evidence, then those people will walk or they won't ever be arrested. And I'm hoping that as you move forward and look at those long-term goals, that we're going to reach out to the media to become a partner as we move forward from now on, not to be breaking stories and all of this, and then now they're not here to hear the report. You know, I want them to be a partner to get news out and get information out quickly when it matters. I want parents and kids to feel safe that I'm going to be able to speak up. And this isn't because we live in Gilbert. It's everywhere. And you don't want a tragedy to create an environment that people feel I have to do something versus this is the right thing to do at this time. And so I wish there was something I could just unbottle right here and hand it to you. There isn't, but I think, as you mentioned, the power of the people who are passionate in our community want to do that, but we have systems in place. Maybe we need to communicate that better. All of these things, because I know that there are victims who are afraid to speak up because it'll get worse. But yet, how can we protect them if we don't know? And because kids know doesn't mean we know, or their parents know. And so anyway, I'm speaking to the choir up here. I understand it, but I just think it's really important that, yes, let's do stuff now and make sure everybody understands how important it is, but let's not forget long-term so it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
And that brings out a good point. It's something that I've considered all along is that what we're doing is tactical. The subcommittee is doing actionable things that are tactical, they're short term, and it'll probably get to a point where the community engagement task force should look maybe at the longer term and what they can do.
I struggle with what to say. I was so proud of this council. We did not have any of this information going into that December 12th meeting. We came into this meeting with, I think, 1 or 2 emails before that December 12th meeting, so we did not have the information that the community had. And for a council that hasn't been unified on anything, we put together a great statement, I thought, the very next day, and recognized the victims. And I'm sorry it's late, and I know Preston Lord in the Queen Creek case and the Santan case and the Casa Grande case, and I don't want to get those kids' names wrong. I was proud of this group for coming together like that to make that statement. And then it just was a whirlwind. And I don't know how it happened, but it did. And we all handle things the best that we can. And I get accused for not showing up for events that I don't know about. Nobody has, if the 3 of you are going, that's not being shared with me. I don't know about these events. I cannot possibly show up to something that I just don't know about. The walks, I found out about the walk in Chandler after the fact. And again, I can't be someplace that I just don't know about. So if you have that information and would share it with the rest of us, and then we need to do a notice that we potentially would have more than 3 present, because we have to be careful with that too. But I'm so sad to see the hate that we have in this community over this issue. I think that this issue should be bringing us together so that we can find a way to work through it. And for the past couple of weeks, all I feel like is, and I said this earlier in the study session, is that we're using hate to combat violence. And it's not the right way to do it. And I feel like we've gone from a teen situation to an adult bullying situation. And that's not the right way to handle this. It's just not. And we have to find a way to come together. We put this subcommittee together very quickly. You've all hit the ground running. You've had a couple of meetings. You're having people attend, which is way more than we have with other subcommittees. You have people attending and participating, and it's going to take some data gathering in order to put a plan together. Vice Mayor, you said we need to have some sort of a substantial plan. You can't put a plan together until you have the data gathering, and that's what you're working on. So thank you for doing that. I'm hoping that we can take this and move forward and find a way to come out of the hate and stop weaponizing social media in this community to beat each other up, metaphorically. That's all I ask. Councilmember Bongiovanni.
You all have my commitment. If I see something, I'll say something. So when I find out of an event, I'll let you all know. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Let Monica know.
Yeah.
So it can be distributed to us. If 3 of you are showing up, then someone's telling the 3 of you, but they're not telling all of us. And then we get beat up for not being there, but we don't even know about it. That's how all this started, because we didn't know about it. And we couldn't do something that we didn't know about. So please find a way to share that information, please. And no parent should ever have to lose a child. My grandfather was 60-something when my mother passed away at 43, and he said that. It doesn't matter how old you are or how old your children are. No parent should ever have to lose a child under any circumstances. Thank you. Any other updates from the subcommittee? Okay. Thank you. No action needed from the subcommittee. You're still moving forward. Councilmember Bongiovanni has some travel coming up, but he wants to make sure that you can move forward. You only need 2 people in order to move forward with your subcommittee meeting, so that's a plus. Moving on to item 25A, council administration, review, discussion, and possible
Mayor.
action of final report. Yes.
Mayor, could
Yeah.
we
yes.
discuss 25B
Sure.
before 25A?
Sure. Stay on the roll of one topic. Yep, so we'll move to 25B, discussion of possible action related to support of Senate Bill SB 1183, brass knuckles, prohibition weapons bill. 3 of you put this on the agenda for tonight. Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Connor's words spoke for all of us, I think. And I was really happy that he was able to be here today. And I hope, if he's watching this, I hope he got on the volleyball team, because he had a tryout tonight that he was kind of late for. So I appreciate him coming and talking to all of us. And my hope is that we all agree as a council to officially support SB 1183.
I will say that we are already supporting SB 1183, that we have signed in support of SB 1183 as a community. And what is your action for tonight?
I'd like an official vote from the council that we support it. I'll make, my name
You have
is-
to
I'm
learn
lear-
how to make
I
a
know,
motion,
I know,
Council
I
Bon
know,
Giovanni.
I know,
There you go,
I know.
Councilman.
So, where did it go? Here we go. I move that the council supports SB 1183, the brass knuckles prohibition weapons bill.
So I have a motion from Councilmember Bon Giovanni. I have a second from Councilmember Buckley. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. As I stated, our InterGov team has already signed in support of SB 83. I lost it out of my brain, late. SB 1183, and we will continue to do so as needed. And Chief is part of an organization that I believe has already also supported the bill. Thanks again to Senator Kavanaugh for creating that bill and forwarding that bill. We appreciate that support. Now moving on to item 25A, Council Administration Review, Discussion, Possible Action, and Final Report and Recommendation of a Code of Ethics complaint filed against Councilmember Torgerson by Maureen Hoppy. Who would like to start the discussion? I'm going to look at Councilmember Tilke because she usually tackles these things. Sorry, did I put you on the spot? She's like, sorry.
I wasn't. Thanks, thanks. I wasn't planning to speak on this one actually, so I didn't do all my homework like I normally do, so I apologize. I think that just for the public that a complaint was filed under the new process. Mediation was held, and Ms. Hoppy had decided to move forward with an investigation. At that time, our attorney sends that out to an attorney to review, and it has come back. And because I didn't do my statement, I don't have it right in front of me of what the recommendation is. Chris, maybe you could share what the final recommendation was. I apologize.
Yes, Mayor, Council, the outside investigator found that made determination there was no ethical violation.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, and sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay.
You still did a great job. Councilmember Kaprowski.
Thank you. In the past 6 months, or a little bit more than that, there's been numerous ethics complaints filed and investigated, which have highlighted the need for us to take a hard look at how we all conduct ourselves in public service. I don't believe the report being discussed was very thorough, and personally would just prefer to take no action. I also don't believe that our current ethics process is working very well, and would like to be able to focus on the critical issues that the town is facing. Prior to joining the council, none of us had prior experience as an elected official, and this path is undeniably challenging. It's marked by a steep learning curve and the necessity to quickly adapt to expectations and responsibilities that these roles carry. Councilmember Torgerson has made mistakes along the way during in-person interactions as well as on social media. There were times when he communicated and acted in a way that didn't necessarily align with the professionalism and respect that our positions as elected officials demand, but he's also not the first or last to do so. We're all human, and making mistakes is part of learning and growing. And what's important is recognizing these errors and working to do better. I have felt a noticeable effort and improvement in how we as council have been interacting with each other and the public, thanks to some mediation training that we had last fall and a genuine desire to wipe the slate clean and understand each other's different perspectives so that we could work better for the town. However, this is still an ongoing journey, and the progress observed does not negate the need for continued awareness of our actions and commitment to improvement, and I think this applies for everyone. Our responsibility is to maintain the trust and respect of the Gilbert community through the actions that reflect honesty, integrity, and dedication. And as we move forward, I trust it's with professionalism and respect. And honestly, I think this meeting has shown a lot about how this council has grown and worked hard to understand the critical issues that affect our community. and that we are ready to make those decisions and come together for our town. And hopefully we can continue to move forward in that path.
Thank you, Councilmember Kaprowski. That was wonderful. Any other comments?
Mayor, I think that, and Chris, maybe you would like, I really apologize. I think because I always had it ready because I was the vice mayor and I tended to have to do that piece. But there's I think 3 actions that we can look at. One is to accept the report as presented. One is to take no action, in which means that the case is dismissed. But we're not taking any action as far as accepting or rejecting the report. And then one is rejecting the report. I think Councilmember Kaprowski was recommending taking no action. And I think we had this discussion last time. You at least need to make a nod that you were going to take no action if that's recommended, because you don't need a motion to take no action. But I think at least you need to understand that everybody understood that taking no action, what that means.
Mayor, Council, that's correct. So in the code, it says you can accept the report and recommendations in whole or in part. You can send it back to the investigator. You can make your own findings with regard to the complaint. You can dismiss the complaint and then take any other action. So those would all be motions that will have to be seconded and voted on. And then the alternative is if you just take no action, the code says it's dismissed with prejudice. So even if you take no vote, then the complaint is dismissed.
Thank you, Chris. Again, Councilmember Kaprowski, you did a great job. And we did say the last ethics complaint that we had that we just weren't comfortable with the investigation, the evaluation, how it all went, how it was all handled, the investigator. I haven't seen one that I've been comfortable with this fall into this year, and it's disappointing, and the process is broken. And as I stated earlier with communications from citizens during our study session, that it's been weaponized. The ethics complaint process was weaponized to use. I didn't even know it existed. I had been on the council for 6.5, 7 years, and I didn't even know it existed. And it's disappointing that it's been used the way that it has over the years. And I would be fine with just not taking any action whatsoever, because I can't really agree with the report, and I don't want to send it back to an investigator that I don't think did a great job for us, and it's difficult to go forward from there. So with a nod of heads, do we say we just want to let it go? Okay. Vice Mayor? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't see you. Sorry. Okay, moving on. Policy items are for council discussion and action. We have none at this time. Future meetings, the council may discuss whether to place an item on a future agenda, but may not discuss the merits of the item at this time. Anything that anybody would like to put on a future agenda? Seeing none. Communications, report from the town manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I know it's been a long night, so I'll keep my comments short. Just wanted to recognize a lot of hard work on some issues that we brought to a conclusion tonight. First, I'll start with the Lexington Road annexation and rezone. I know I'm going to miss staff members, so please, for those that I do recognize, thank all the people that were involved and helped bring this to a successful outcome for all the parties. But Kyle, Mary, Jessica, Chris, I saw you in meeting rooms a lot working on this issue. I know you brought me a lot of updates on the issue, and I know it was a really complex one, but I'm really pleased that we're able to find a solution that everybody thought was fair and that we could move forward with. And then next on the rates, you know, that was the conclusion of almost a 2-year process, and it was a really challenging issue and a difficult issue for all of you, for this community, for all the staff members that worked on it. And again, some of the key people, Jessica, Eric, Kelly, Paul, Leah, Susanna, and so many more. We greatly understand the need to balance that impact to our ratepayers and our residents and our community, while also balancing what is the right thing to do to secure our water system and to make sure we have access to a safe, reliable, sustainable water supply in some really, really challenging times. And I know that the right decision is seldom the easy decision, and that was a hard one tonight. So thank you all for working through that with us. And again, thank you to the staff that worked very hard to bring that to a conclusion tonight. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Patrick. Next, we have report from the council. Anyone have any items to report? Councilmember Bongiovanni had his mic on first, so we'll go down there, and then you'll be next, Councilmember Buckley.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to thank Chief Solberg and the Gilbert Police Force for all the hard work you guys have been doing, and the arrests you have been making. Appreciate it. Okay, so from Rocky and the rec team, the Center Court Pickleball Palooza Tournament. I swear to God, they make this stuff up just for sound like a... Anyhow, try out your pickleball skills at the Center Court Pickleball Palooza Tournament at Gilbert Regional Park on February 17th, 2024. The Gilbert Outdoor Expo. Put on your camouflage and boots and head over to the Gilbert Outdoor Expo on February 24th at the Riparian Preserve at Water Ranch. Go fishing, explore wildlife, climb on the rock wall, and much more. This event is sure to be something the whole family will enjoy. February 24th. Get out there, do it. That's it.
Councilmember Buckley.
Well, I can never match Jim or Chuck. That's just all there is to it. I do want to say just quickly, because I didn't make very many comments about the ethics complaints or anything, but this council is ethics complaint free as of today.
You blew it. That's it.
Yes, so I'm happy about that, yeah. So Jim, behave, would you? So anyway, I have some tourism related points and items that I just wanted to pass along that our tourism director and economic director, Dan Henderson, would like for me to do. And so Arizona travel industry is upgrading with 2 new big developments in our airline industry. Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, I was thrilled to see this. Now I need someone to go with me. Paris. Oh, yeah. The Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport team has landed its first ever nonstop flight between Phoenix and Paris. Wow. So if there's any single men out there, no.
Keep going.
It says Air France has committed to bringing French visitors to Arizona multiple times a week and carrying our passengers there. Discover Gilbert and neighboring destinations marketing organizations will work collaboratively. I've been trying to practice saying that to keep demand up on these flights in an effort to grow this market. So that is really exciting for the whole Phoenix and East Valley area. Now, the other one is Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport will debut a 5-gate, 30,000 square foot addition to their terminal on February 20th. The new South Concourse replaces the temporary placed portable building previously used. This will give incoming visitors an elevated, warm, and welcoming experience that reflects our East Valley hospitality. So 2 very exciting things, and I think most of us have been invited to the opening of the new concourse. Yes. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm more likely to do that than the other. All right. Anyway, thank you all. I want to say thank you to everybody that's still here because I commend you.
Councilmember Kaprowski. Thank you, Councilmember Buckley.
Thank you. The Gilbert Symphony Orchestra is happy to announce that our concert for Gilbert's belated 100th birthday celebration is happening tomorrow night. It's happening it starts at 7 p.m. at the Higley Center for Performing Arts. This is also a really special event because Councilmember Bongiovanni and I have been working on a dementia-friendly initiative for the community, and so this is one of our first events that is going to be dementia-friendly. And what that means is that in order for people living with dementia, their friends and caregivers, it gives the flexibility and freedom for them to relax and make the concert experience as enjoyable as possible. So the musicians will introduce the music that you'll hear in each concert. The doors will open 45 minutes early, so there's plenty of time to get settled in. So that means 6:15 you can arrive and start coming in. There'll be wheelchair spaces available. And there's no need to keep quiet or sit still, and you can come in and out of the auditorium during the performance, and there will also be quiet areas available if anyone needs to take a break. The actual concert is, I think, going to be amazing. The Gilbert Symphony Orchestra has grown to a volunteer orchestra, even the conductor is a volunteer, to over 75 dedicated members. Yeah. And the music that you'll hear tomorrow, the first half will be music from the 1920s when Gilbert was incorporated. And then the second half will focus on the place of Gilbert and our kind of country roots and heritage. And so I'm really excited about this tomorrow. If you can make it, we'd love for you to join, and I'll be there, so I'll see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kaprowski. Wow, that's the symphony has grown, the orchestra has grown. Councilmember Torgerson?
One thing, if there's, Councilmember Kaprowski, if there's something else that you need for the symphony, I know I donated a couple things previously, but if you need something last minute, do not be afraid to call, because I'll take care of it. And I don't want to deflate anything that the mayor may say, but I wanted to say this morning was something interesting that I went to something called Preston's Pursuit, and it's, I'll let the mayor speak about what that is. I would like you to, because you deserve to. But I saw Chief Solberg there, I saw Patrick Banjer, our town manager, saw Young Kaprowski, I saw the mayor, Chief Duggan, and Scott Anderson there. And it showed, this is for, autistic, let's call it training for officers. And they raised money to make sure that there was something there to help with that. And I watched, everybody participate, and I watched the mayor write a substantial check. And to see people that have been told they have no empathy for children write a check and be present at 7 in the morning, I wanted to point that out in case she wasn't going to say something about it. But I would like her to talk about Preston's Pursuit. Thank you.
Any other comments from council members? Well, then I will move into my report. I will start with Preston's Pursuit for Acceptance. Preston is the son of one of our Gilbert Police Department lieutenants, and he was diagnosed with autism. And our lieutenant, Chris, and his wife, Autumn, have started a nonprofit under that name, PPA, and this morning was their kickoff breakfast. And for any of you that have ever been to the small gathering room at HT South, it was packed more than I've ever seen it packed, ever. And the enthusiasm and the spirit in the room was just so heartwarming for them to be kicking off this nonprofit that will help to train our public safety first responders in answering calls so that we don't see stories similar to what we've seen come out of the West Valley when an officer responded to a call that was an autistic person or a neurodeficient, chief, I'm going to lose the terminology for it, I'm sorry, member of our society that the officer really wasn't capable of dealing with. And that is a scar on that officer forever, and it is a scar on that family forever. And this family with this nonprofit that they started with their own money, and they're not taking a penny from, it will be 0 money to them, all used for this nonprofit, will train our first responders. And our police department, our fire department, Parks and Rec are already autism trained and autism certified, and so proud of them for that. And this will take that so much further. It costs $50 to train one first responder. And for those of you who know Jim Hayden, he kicked off the basically auction style of the donation portion with who will donate for 200 officers, which is $10,000, and he got a couple of takers immediately. And then he went, okay, 200 officers, let's make it 100 officers, let's make it 50 officers, let's make it, and they proudly raised $50,000 in 10, 15 minutes. I was just shocked beyond belief. But that's what this community does. That's what the people in this East Valley do. They come together. There were people from Scottsdale, North Scottsdale, Phoenix. The general counsel from Mexico, Jorge Mendoza, was there. Former mayors from Scottsdale, the mayor of Chandler, myself, our members of council, and it was just an incredible, heartwarming thing to see. And to take care of our first responders because they take care of us every single day, and we don't want any of our members to have that situation come before them, whether it's a firefighter or police officer, that they don't know how to handle the situation that they have come to. So very proud of them, and thank you, Councilmember Torgerson. I don't ever like to toot my own horn when it comes to those kinds of things, but that family is very special to me, and just an amazing family. Preston happens to be one of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee students. He was last year, and we've let him repeat for this year, so he not only has gone through the program and is going through it again, but he's also serving as a mentor to the students this year. And this kid didn't like to have his photo taken. He's a senior in high school, didn't like to have his photo taken, never would want to take a selfie, and he and I now can do a cheek-to-cheek selfie, which is just monumental for him. Monumental, and I'm so proud of him and that family. Thank you, sorry. Ashley, I'm ready for my slides, or the screens just went down. Oh, that's okay. That's okay, I'll stay on the public safety thing. I have two projects that I just wanted to mention because, again, I want to show that this council and this community are so behind our public safety and their health and well-being that last week we opened a recharge room at the Gilbert Public Safety Training Facility, and this recharge room is will support the mental and emotional health of our members of public safety, whether they be sworn or professional members of those teams. And we wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for support from Rich Ganley, the owner of Colair Beauty Lounge and Med Spa. It will support them with infrared and headphones that will serve for their mental well-being, and a cold tub that's 43 degrees, and a sauna. And there's a specific order that you do these things in to help with your well-being. And so very proud to be able to kick that off for them last week. And then yesterday, we opened a new emergency operations center right in the building across the street. In 2020, when we were facing all of the issues going on in the world that happened to come right here to downtown Gilbert at the corner of Gilbert and Warner Roads, it was found that our current emergency operations center was just not capable. It couldn't handle the technology. It didn't have the space. It wasn't able to be upgraded. And what we opened yesterday is really a reflection of this council's commitment to ensuring our public safety members are able to serve this community with the tools and resources that they need into the future. We have on the screen a community-wide food drive that will run from February 12th through February 26th. You can scan that QR code on the screen for drop-off locations and many other details. And next slide. We have a community needs assessment survey that Melanie Dykstra would love for everybody to please take. So scan that QR code and take this brief survey before Friday, February 16th, and you could be entered to win one of 4 $50 Visa gift cards. And I will end there because it's late. Thank you all. Thank you to staff that got us through this evening. Appreciate everything and all that you do. And I will adjourn the meeting because I don't need a motion to do it so far.